About 3 million years ago, when early humans showed up, our protagonist was one of them. He seemed normal at first. He thought he was like everyone else, but he didn't age, he didn't weaken, and he didn't die. While everyone else aged and died, he stayed, hunting and fighting because that was all that gave him any joy. As time passed, his body kept changing, bigger, stronger, tougher. After nearly 3 million years of that, he was unmatched. People started calling him the god of Earth, Mu. He took it further, beat every other god, and ended up the strongest in the divine realm. With no rivals left, the rush faded and boredom set in. One day he stomped his foot, and the god's entire divine realm trembled. Gods, angels, even the evil beings were terrified. It wasn't the first time he'd done it, and some gods were done with the daily quakes, Lucifer, the second-ranked god, among them. Mu didn't care, still stuck on the same thought. He'd beaten every worthy opponent without breaking a sweat, and it had been over 1,000 years since anyone could push him. He sighed and said, being too strong is a problem too. Then it clicked. If strength was the problem, he'd fix it by getting weaker. In an earthling body, he'd have hundreds to fight again. He jumped up and yelled, "Yang Yang!" A massive dragon appeared overhead, didn't seem too thrilled to be summoned, and slammed down in front of him, towering many times taller than Mu's throne. It looked annoyed. This was the top god's assistant, Yang Yang. It asked why it had been called, and to its surprise, God Mu just starts walking off and tells him to handle things while he's gone. Yang Yang fires off a spell, Binding of the Absolute, and chains Mu to stop him. Mu only turns and gives him a cold side glance, and Yang Yang immediately shrinks, stammering that he meant no disrespect, but Mu should at least explain, especially with a god's meeting coming up. Mu doesn't care about the meeting and keeps walking, dragging Yang Yang along by the chains like they're nothing. Seeing that won't work, Yang Yang switches tactics, playing the victim, and says if Mu skips the meeting, he'll be the one stuck hearing all the other gods complain about him. Mu snaps the binding, turns, and yells that he's not going there unless Yang Yang agrees to fight him right now. Yang Yang backs off in a heartbeat, decides the complaints are better than getting shredded, and wishes Mu a quick, safe trip. Mu walks up to a small earth floating nearby and touches it. He needs a body to enter, so he listens in on the messages people are sending to the gods. Most are trivial, but one person flat-out questions his existence. It surprises him at first, then he decides that he is the perfect choice. For the first time in 1,000 years, Mu actually looks excited. He finally has something to do. Yang Yang, not so much. Mood absolutely tanked. Mu pauses like he might explain, then just says goodbye, leaves the place in Yang Yang's hands, and tells him to deal with anyone who shows up. Yang Yang realizes Mu is only sending his soul to Earth and leaving his body behind, and worried, he reminds him that if something happens to the body, the soul on Earth dies too. Mu's already decided, true to his Sigma personality, nobody in the divine realm would dare touch him, so the body will be safe. Yang Yang keeps trying to talk him out of it, but Mu brushes him off and goes anyway. Without warning, we cut away from Mu to someone else entirely who had just beaten the demon lord. The rush felt great, but it was only the ending of an anime. This guy is a 17-year-old loser named Lee Ho. Lee Ho is jealous of an anime's hero who ended up with a bunch of girls. Yeah. Bro deadass watched harem in another world as his goodbye, and as the credits roll he sighs. He lets his phone slip, it falls and shatters, and we see why he's standing on the edge of a 3-story building, already bruised and cut, ready to end his life. He mutters a bitter goodbye and jumps. Falling through the air, crying, he yells, "If there's a god, prove it, send me to another world." He hits the ground hard. He should have died, but his body refuses, his fingers twitch, and he starts gasping. Right before impact, God Mu's soul jumped into Lee's body. Mu wakes up inside a wrecked body, no idea what just happened. Lee's soul, meanwhile, lands in the divine realm, stunned to the towering dragon glaring at him, and the dragon looks just as shocked to see a human. A moment ago, in the divine realm, Mu taps the little earth floating in front of him. He isn't worried about leaving his body, he's sure no one would dare touch it. His dragon assistant tells him to think it through, but Mu brushes him off and launches his soul toward Earth, swapping with Lee. The instant Mu enters Lee's body, he realizes he's midair, no time to adjust, about to hit the ground. Then Lee's body slams into the ground. The pain is worse than anything he's felt in his immortal life, but the bigger shock is the confusion. Why did this happen the instant he arrived? His hands shake, then go still as it hits him. He's dying. There's no time to fix anything. But this isn't over. Muscles that work on their own like the heart are called involuntary muscles. Mu spent 3 million years training and knows the human body so well he can control everything, blood vessels, organs, all of it. Because of that, a few seconds after flatlining, he forces his heart to start again. It hurts like hell, but he pushes blood through his vessels, fixes his heart, and stops the bleeding. He slowly gets to his feet, and instead of getting angry, he's weirdly happy. Feeling this much pain tells him he made the right call coming here. Then he digs through Lee's memories to see what kind of life he just took over. He heads to Lee's place, his new base, but walking on those weak, wrecked legs is rough, so he uses his hands to help and moves on them to take pressure off. He finally reaches the house. He goes into the small room, sits on a creaky bed, and reviews what he learned. Lee has one male relative who lives far away, so he's alone, broke, and miserable, and the only thing he does is go to some place called school. What amuses Moo most is a memory of someone at school who seemed to have made bullying him their life's mission, always picking fights, always making his life hell. Moo sees it as the perfect starting point because he can head straight into a fight. He got so hyped he threw a punch into the air, and a sharp pain shot through his right arm. He figured it was from overusing his hands while crawling back home earlier. Lee clearly never hit arm day, so even small efforts left them sore. Instead of getting mad, Moo smirks. After thousands of years without pain, it felt good to feel anything. The next day, police investigates where Lee Ho's body had hit the ground. Moo went back there too, not for the cops, but because the 3-story building nearby was Lee's school. He walks in, scans the halls, and finds the classroom, but slides the door open way too hard, killing his big entrance, which drew a glare from a classmate who called out to him and told him to keep it down. Moo forgets the sting and walks right up to the kid, standing uncomfortably close. When it comes to fighting, Moo always waits for the opponent to strike first, to confirm their intent to fight, and his opponent does. The kid then freezes for a second, thrown off by Moo's creepy grin, and Moo hits him back, smashing his fist right into his face. Moo asks the bully to confirm it is him, and the bully replies, "What's wrong with you?" and asks if he left his glasses at home or is just too blind and stupid today. Before Moo can answer, he swings and nails him in the face. Blood runs from Moo's nose and mouth, dripping onto the floor. As Moo pulls his hand back, pain rips through his arm, a sharp reminder of his earlier muscle soreness. Their teacher storms over, yelling at them to stop, and the whole class turns to watch. Humiliated, the bully ignores everyone and charges. Moo throws up a guard and blocks his attacks. He thinks he'd have ended this already if his new body could keep up. He even tries to tap into his godly powers, but nothing happens, and that split second of distraction gets him punched in the face again. The bully isn't backing off. Moo's in trouble, no real strength, no kicks, no powers, so he goes with the one thing he can trust. He drops his head, lines it up, and takes the next punch on his skull. The impact cracks the bully's fingers, and the kid screams. Moo moves before he can recover. He grabs the bully's hand and drives his head forward, ramming into his stomach, maybe even into his balls, going straight for the weak spot. The bully doubles over, overwhelmed by the pain, and Moo isn't done yet. He wants to make sure this guy never forgets. Moo raises his head and slams it into the bully's jaw. That did it. The bully lies defeated. Meanwhile, all of his classmates have their phones up, filming the whole thing. Watching the weakest kid in school drop a second-year bully wasn't something they expected. For Moo, this was his first real fight in thousands of years. He'd thrown everything he had into it, and the rush felt amazing. Blood filling his mouth, the painful throbbing, he was fine with it. After so long, the sting of a real fight actually felt good. Now that the excitement fades, he looks down at the unconscious bully like he isn't done, sits beside him, and because the guy pushed him so hard, thanks him. Then he leans in, lowers his head, and bites the boy's ear off and spits it on the ground while the entire class stares in horror. Moo doesn't care what anyone thinks. He wipes the blood from his face and keeps staring at the body. That bite wasn't random. This was Moo's way of leaving a mark on an opponent he actually respected. People would later call those opponents Moo's playthings. Only the strong ones who gave him exciting fights made that list. Back then, being one of Moo's playthings was almost like a badge of honor, a sign you were tough. Moo's mark wasn't about shame, it was recognition. Word spread fast. A second-year bully got put down by the school's weakest kid. The part that shocked everyone wasn't just the loss, they said he basically got neutered. His condition was bad enough that someone called emergency services and they hauled him to the hospital. Moo watches, impressed by the speed of the treatment. As the ambulance pulls away, he waves, telling his first opponent goodbye and says he hopes they'd meet again. One of the teachers storms up behind Moo and tells him to come to the office. As soon as they get there, the teacher blows up asking if he's lost his mind and why he did something so reckless to his classmate. He even raises a binder to hit him, but Moo doesn't flinch. He actually looks excited, like he's already thinking about his next fight, and that look makes the teacher freeze. Not wanting to end up like the kid in the hospital, the teacher backs off and skips the punishment. He turns away and tells Moo to bring his parents to school tomorrow. Mu had braced for the hit, however the teacher dismissed him, saying he has to leave school early, every student's dream, and Mu just nods and walks out. On the way to Li's house, Mu turns it over in his head. Unlike other gods who know everything about their worlds, he doesn't even know what leave early really means. Maybe it just means go back to base. Either way, he decides to use the time to heal and train this fragile new body. His hand is shaking from the earlier damage, and he wishes he could use his godly powers to fix it fast. Mana, the life force people in other worlds call Kai or chakra, lets humans do crazy things, become hunters or wizards, whatever, but not here. Here, he can't rely on it since on Earth there is no mana. Frustrated, he accepts he has built up his body the hard way. He reaches his place and collapses on the bed. Healing will take time and there's not much else he can do, so he decides to jump back to the God's realm to check on things. His soul snaps back into his original body. Right in front of him, Li Ho is choking Yang Yang, refusing to let it go. Li lets go, walks over, and tells Mu to hand the dragon over, fantasizing about how overpowered he would be in another world with a dragon. Mu isn't having it. He summons a giant hand, grabs Li, and makes it clear he won't be ordered around. Mu ignores his protests and drags him off. He's decided to give the kid a second chance in another world. They arrive at Lucifer's domain, the second-ranked god in the divine realm. Lucifer's focused on his planet Elmer, unlike Mu. Mu strolls straight into his castle without asking. Lucifer's annoyed naturally and shuts them down before they can even explain. Mu doesn't care. He tells Lucifer to open the gate. He's sending the boy to Elmer. Lucifer shoots back, as expected, that Elmer isn't Mu's planet and he doesn't get to decide that. Mu leans in and reminds him who's stronger, saying he can do what he wants and can prove it anytime, anywhere. Lucifer has no choice. He knows he can't win this. Mu steps past him and touches Elmer's surface. Lucifer blurts out that this is forbidden. If a god touches another's domain, an unbreakable barrier will trigger, and sure enough, the barrier appears. Mu shatters it in seconds. Lucifer just stares while Mu says the universe's rules can be changed if someone really wants to. Mu opens his hand and releases Li, telling him to step up and jump through the hole he just made into Elmer, no pressure. Li hesitates, clearly not what he imagined. Mu reminds him this is what he asked for and the chance is right here. Li, still wavering, asks again for the dragon so he can dominate his new life. Mu isn't having it. He refuses to hand over his own assistant and just blasts Li straight into Elmer's planet, forcing the isekai. He grumbles about kids wanting everything handed to them then, with things settled, tells Lucifer to look after the kid and heads out. Lucifer, humiliated and boiling, can only dream about tearing Mu apart. His past isn't simple either. He was the first demon lord, the one on top of all life on Elmer's planet. After taking the crown as the strongest, he even challenged the god of his world. At the start of that fight, Lucifer called down a blinding light that turned into a massive sword and charged it at him. The god couldn't handle it and was cut in two on the spot. Lucifer took that god's place, but he still wasn't satisfied. He went to the divine realm, challenged the other gods, and beat them one by one until he claimed the top throne. A demon became the god of gods and everyone respected him. He was glazed by everyone. But it didn't last. Mu showed up, crushed him in front of everyone, and shattered that image in a single day. That day, Lucifer swore he'd get revenge, saying Mu was a human-born low-life. Now, while Mu rides his dragon back toward his domain, he has no idea a demon sent by Lucifer is tracking him from the sky, waiting for a chance to strike. Lucifer's preying on Mu's downfall. Back on Earth, the bully from Li's school wakes up in the hospital, still raging and wanting Li dead. He grabs his phone, hunts through his contacts, and calls someone tougher to finish the job. Across the city, Kang Cheol Hyung, the youth middleweight boxing champ, is pounding a heavy bag when a loud ringtone cuts in. He stops and looks over as a blonde guy walks in, says it's his phone, and answers. That blonde guy Gwak Cheol Hyung, a boxer with 2 years of experience. The bully goes straight to business. He tells Gwak Cheol Hyung he'll buy him a new phone if he does him one small favor. Hyung accepts the deal immediately. Next day in class, the bully strolls in like nothing happened. The room goes quiet, everyone staring, then the whispering starts, people talking about how the guy who used to push others around looks pathetic now. He tries to ignore it, but when the jokes turn into people saying he got neutered, he snaps. He slams his backpack on the floor and yells he can still take them all, daring anyone who doubts him to come fight him. The class president, a girl with glasses, stands up and fires back, telling him to shut up or get out. It only pisses him off more. He loses it, grabs a chair, and goes to throw it at her to make everyone afraid of him again. Before he can do it, the door swings open and Ronnie Coleman steps in, asking what all the noise is about. The bully drops into his seat like nothing happened, fastest sit-down of his life. The teacher looks around, spots the class president still standing and clearly upset, and asks what's going on and why she's out of her seat. She doesn't tell on him. She sits and says it's nothing. Ronnie Coleman lets it slide, but tells her to see him after class, which leaves her wondering why. After school, she meets him like he asked. He says he needs a favor. Since she's the class president and someone he can trust, go check on Lee Ho, who was absent and isn't answering his phone. In return, he'll write her a recommendation letter for senior year. It's framed like a request, but she knows she can't really refuse, so she agrees. At Lee's place, looking like she just wants to get this over with. She goes straight to the door, knocks, and calls out. No answer, she hesitates, then tries the knob and it turns. The door's unlocked, so she steps inside. Lee is lying there in a filthy room with bugs everywhere. He looks lifeless and the shock hits her all at once. She screams. Thinking Lee was dead, she grabbed her phone and called an ambulance because what else was there to do? As Lee lays still, his body suddenly twitches. Moo has returned. He opens his eyes, totally disoriented, trying to understand where he is and how he got there. He feels something on his hand, looks down, and sees the IV line feeding him some kind of nutrient serum. He studies the tube. He can tell something is flowing into his veins. He realizes it's nutrients, feels his body soaking them up and speeding his recovery. It isn't magic, but the effect is decent. The girl sitting nearby notices he's awake. His creepy smile made her think he wasn't all there, but she still asks what happened. Before he can answer, she grabs her bag and says she is heading back to school to report everything to Ronnie Coleman like he'd asked. Moo sat up and tried to stop her. He didn't know who she was, but he figured she was the one who helped him recover so fast. He wanted information. He yanked out the IV, kept his usual creepy smile, and asked if she knew a place where he could train and get stronger. Since he's broke, she suggested a simple outdoor gym at a nearby park. Moo went straight there and got to work, no warm-up, of course. Looking around impressed, these basic setups feel like real training gear to him. It's been almost 4,000 years since he last set foot on Earth. He hadn't bothered to check on human progress as the Earth god, so even these basic workout machines leave him impressed. Back in his time, people trained with rough, inefficient methods. By comparison, this stuff felt revolutionary to Moo, though he didn't even know how they worked, when a small rock hit his back and dropped to the floor. It was the bruised bully from earlier, and he'd brought backup, his cousin Hyung, a professional boxer. Moo just sat down, couldn't care less about him, picked up the rock and asked who threw it. The guy shouted that he did and bragged that his cousin would beat him to death for what happened. Before he could finish, Moo slipped in a quick punch. The guy hit the ground screaming, his already broken nose smashed again, and of course Moo couldn't have been happier about it. Meanwhile, in the realm of the gods, it was time for their regular meeting, but Moo didn't show up. His only assistant, Yang, nervous, started to deliver Moo's message, but Lucifer cut him off, glaring and demanding why an assistant dared to step into a god's meeting and speak first. Panicking, Yang explained he was only there to read a letter and meant no disrespect, then pushed through it with a shaky voice. As usual, Moo wanted to be notified if anyone found a worthy opponent for him. That was it. Lucifer slammed the table. As the second most powerful god, he was done with Moo doing whatever he wanted, skipping meetings and ignoring everyone. Lucifer wasn't wrong. Most of the gods agreed but kept quiet. Lucifer said the meeting existed to keep their worlds stable and safe. Then the archer god, third strongest, agrees that if anything unusual came up, they'd have to handle it like they always do, same as always. Lucifer slams the table again and yells that Moo treats everything like a game and is pushing their worlds toward collapse. And on the rare times Moo steps in, he says, it only makes things worse. To prove it, Lucifer turns to the Cyclops god, the ninth-ranked deity, and asks if he remembers what Moo did 1,000 years ago when the Cyclops planet was about to be destroyed. A massive void creature, as big as the planet and able to swallow it, had started ripping it apart. Then something blasted straight through it and split it into two pieces. Of course, Moo, grinning with his face flushed, happy to fight, killed the thing in an instant. Lucifer uses that to argue the aftermath was on Moo, and that if he'd worked with the other gods instead of charging in alone, there wouldn't have been casualties. Lucifer says they can't keep letting someone unfit for godhood gamble with their worlds. On the other side, Yang stays quiet, unable to defend his lord, and just prays for him to come back before this gets worse. Back on Earth, the beaten guy starts making noise again, warning Moo that his boxer cousin will make him pay. The cousin is intrigued. He saw how fast Moo moved and punched earlier, so he asks if Moo does any sports or martial arts. Mu shrugs it off and says he doesn't play sports, he just wants to fight. That makes Hyung write him off as a cocky, dumb middle schooler. Hyung squares up and says he's ready. He decides to start first, moving in fast to see if this guy is all talk, and cracks Mu in the face with a sharp opening punch. The hit lands clean, but something about Mu throws Hyung off. As a boxer, Hyung finds it weird that Mu didn't move at all, even though he clearly saw the punch coming from the start. Mu never dodges the first hit. Taking it is his way of starting the match. With that unsettling grin, Mu yells, "Is hand-to-hand combat your specialty?" Hyung seems uneasy. Then Mu mirrors Hyung's stance and rushes in. Hyung writes it off as just a dumb copycat move, blocks the punch, and gets shoved back across the floor. He can't believe how much power this skinny twig has, while Mu looks even more hyped. Just before impact, Mu flexed his arm as hard as he could. His arm feels like it's tearing, but he doesn't care. Pain only makes the fight better for him. He couldn't feel that sort of stuff from the creatures he fought in his godly form. He yanks off his belt and wraps it around his fist to protect his hand since this body heals slow. The kid on the sidelines calls it unfair. Neither Mu nor Hyung care about his opinion. Hyung charges back in. He throws a fast barrage left, right, nonstop, trying to overwhelm him. While defending, Mu studies him and sees it, fast and precise but predictable. Mu starts avoiding the shots with ease. Hyung tries to switch it up, but Mu not only blocks, he punches Hyung's arm mid-swing. It takes a few seconds for Hyung to process it, then he starts screaming. Mu just watches, amused, realizing Hyung and that kid from Lee's class really are related with the same overly dramatic tendencies. Mu doesn't waste time. He seals it with another quick punch and knocks Hyung out cold, while Hyung's cousin just stands there, stunned. Mu's face lights up like he's itching for round 2, and he says it's time to pay for all the trouble, since this isn't the first time they've messed with him. The bully who'd been acting tough earlier knows it's over now that Hyung's down. Mu walks toward the bully to finish him. Up close, he sees the guy's too scared to fight back, and there's no pride in beating someone like that. The guy notices that tiny pause and hopes that if he keeps acting scared and says he doesn't want to fight, it might end quietly, but it's too late. Before he can speak, Mu cracks him in the face with a quick punch. He goes in hard with no mercy, piling on hits even as the guy's face and body swell and bleed. Mu ends it with a brutal knee to the face and finally feels satisfied. He praises him for not admitting defeat while knowing he never gave him a chance to. With both of them down, he walks off, leaving his mark on the boxer too. The bully lies there muttering his name, calling him a crazy bastard. Mu heads back to his house and feels good. He's getting to fight almost every day. Still, his weak muscles keep acting up. To keep this feeling going, he decides to return to the God realm to pick up what he asked Yang to prepare. But this time nothing happens and Mu just sits there, waiting. A few days earlier at Lucifer's domain. That same day, Mu kept ignoring Lucifer, as we already know, coming and going like he owned the place, not realizing he was pushing Lucifer to his limit. On the way back to his domain, Yang asked how Earth was. Mu said he loved it, but his new body was weak, then told his assistant to find a recovery magic orb so his body on Earth could heal faster. There was just one small problem. Magic items are common on Elmer and a few other worlds under Lucifer because there's plenty of mana there. On Earth, you only get them through divine blessings or whims, so they're insanely rare. Only a few people in history have used them, and humans treated those people like gods. Not long after, Yang promised he'd have the recovery orb ready the next time Mu came to the God realm. When they landed, the assistant reminded Mu about the upcoming gods meeting, and Mu casually dug in his pocket and said he'd prepared something because of all the complaining. It was just a small letter. Of course, we already know what's written inside it. After handing that off, Mu walked to the miniature Earth model and put his hand on it to jump back to Lee. Neither of them noticed the small demon watching from above, reporting every move to Mu's biggest enemy. Back to the present, Lucifer is piecing things together. He doesn't know what Mu's plan is, but he's sure Mu's body is empty, and skipping the meeting tells him Mu won't be in the God realm for a while. It clicks this is his moment, a once-in-a-millennium chance to get revenge. He's not missing it. Without warning, Lucifer casts life taxidermy, no villain speech to remove the one obstacle between him and Mu. Purple, spear-like lightning forms over Yang, but he reacts fast. He jumps back and dodges every strike in a blink, his look snapping into a serious one. Ready to fight, Yang steps up and demands answers. What's this supposed to be? Lucifer, are you really declaring war on Mu, the god of Earth? Lucifer, confident now that Mu isn't around to interfere, floats up and says he'll personally kick Mu out of the seat of divinity. He knows what that means and doesn't hedge. It's an official declaration of war. Yang doesn't wait. He compresses his fire breath into a tight beam and fires it straight at Lucifer. Lucifer slips past it easily. The blast whips around the god's realm and detonates on the far side with a huge explosion. The archer god throws up a defensive aura to cover the other gods at the meeting. Lucifer doesn't even move or defend. Seeing his first strike did nothing, Yang triggers his ultimate polymorph release. His whole body grows and changes, and he's going all in to protect his master. The archer god sighs and decides she's out, saying this place isn't fit for a proper divine meeting anymore. As the archer god drifts away, Lucifer calls after her and asks whose side she's on. The archer god keeps going and says she's neutral, neither for nor against. Lucifer says he's fine with the archer god staying neutral, as long as she doesn't interfere. Then he turns to the rest of the gods and asks if anyone objects to Mu's expulsion. None of them say a word. Yang is still alive and warns Lucifer that he's no match for God Mu. Lucifer just smirks and says he knows Mu isn't here. He's living in a weak human body on Earth. That stuns Yang. He thought he was the only one who knew, and it suddenly explains why Lucifer chose to rebel. With nothing left, Yang tries one last surprise attack, whipping his tail around Lucifer, but Lucifer slips aside and slices the tail into pieces. He doesn't finish him. Keeping Mu's assistant alive means he can use him to find Mu on Earth, in that human body, and make him pay for all the humiliations. Lucifer laughs while Yang coughs blood and shakes, unable to do anything. On Earth, Hyung is covered in bruises and getting screamed at by his coach for the street fight. He's forced to take a long recovery break right before his big matches, then finally gets dismissed. Walking out, he blames Lee for the mess, right as Kang walks in. Kang notices his beat-up state and asks what happened. Hyung can't admit he got handled by some random weak-looking guy, and since Kang is one of the best boxers in the country, he decides to put up his best acting skills and starts lying, saying he stepped in to help his brother who was being bullied, and the bullies ganged up and beat him. Kang walks past without reacting, tells Hyun this is on him and to be more careful, especially before his matches, then leaves. He's about to go when Kang calls. By the way, Kang actually believes him and asks who did this to him. Mu is still wondering why he can't get back to his real body. The only reason would be that his body's badly damaged, but that doesn't sit right. He has Yang guarding him, and still his body shouldn't be easy to harm. Then it hits him. What if all the gods joined up and attacked? He jumps to his feet. If that's true, he needs to move now. But he has no idea what to do, which just makes him angrier, furious at the thought of those gods taking cheap shots when they wouldn't face him one-on-one and his pillows catch all of the heat. In his head, he swears that if he gets the chance, he'll make stew out of them. He then forces himself to calm down. He reminds himself Yang isn't someone who goes down easy, even against a group. If he can't do anything about his original body right now, he'll focus on this one. He heads back to training. He works his abs for the first time. They feel like they're on fire, and somehow that makes him enjoy it more. People around him stare, pretty sure he's lost it. In the middle of his workout, someone suddenly calls his name. He loses his grip and hits the floor hard. It's the class president, and she's annoyed because he hasn't shown up to school for days. They move to a quiet bench. Mu shrugs and says, "Why would I go to school? I can't train there." She asks why he trains nonstop. He says it's simple, to get stronger. She asks why he wants to be stronger, and he grins so he can fight better and take on bigger opponents. From there he goes off, ranting for hours about fighting and training, and she just sits there and listens, thinking he must be insane. Then she changes her approach. What's the point of training so hard if there's no one to fight? Just come to school, meet people, start some conflict, you'll have plenty of opponents. She walks off. Mu has to admit she has a point. After what he did to those bullies, they won't go near him. For the first time, he actually considers going to school. Right then, a guy in a mask shows up behind him and calls his name out. Mu doesn't answer. He knows exactly what this is. He looks relieved finally and turns his head, already bracing for the first hit. Earth is the best, he says. Back when Kang was 15 and getting good at boxing, his sister was a ballerina. Kang supported her any way he could. Everything was fine until a creep started stalking Kang's sister. His obsession got worse, and one night he followed her into a quiet alley to make his move. Kang happened to be nearby and dropped him with a surprise hit before he could do anything. Because Kang stopped him before an actual crime, there wasn't enough evidence, so he was released. The stalker came back angrier. Kang showed up again and stopped him, but this time he was too late to prevent everything. His sister's leg was badly injured, and her ballet career was over. Kang blamed the law for failing her and decided he couldn't trust it anymore. He began working as a vigilante every night. Whenever he saw a gang looking shady or someone with the potential to commit crimes, he stepped in. He didn't see it as pointless violence. To him, it was justice. Back in the present, Mu took Kang's preemptive punch without resisting, but he could tell it was light. Either way, Mu didn't care. He had his signal to start the fight. Kang wants to interrogate Mu, but he isn't interested in explaining anything. He brushes off Kang's questions and tells him to stop talking and get on with it, which only ticks Kang off. Mu keeps his guard up like a pro. Kang throws punch after punch, but Mu slips every one of them. Kang tries a boxer's trick, flicking a light right to block Mu's vision and planning to blast him with a heavy follow-up, but Mu reads it and blocks that too. That's when Kang realizes this isn't some loudmouth. Mu actually knows how to fight. He starts picking at Mu's weak spots, then finds an opening and buries a shot in Mu's side. Kang steps back to talk, saying he's targeting the injuries on purpose because there's no mercy in judgment. Mu laughs through the pain. It makes Kang even more furious. Mu knows Kang's on another level, and in Lee's body he can't win. But he won't quit. He cannot miss this opportunity to fight. He remembers one of those rare times he was almost overpowered. Even then, he didn't regret it. He wanted the win, so he forced himself to calm down, shut off his emotions, and study every movement. Back then, Mu landed a few clean shots on that giant monster, but they barely did anything. He knew he was outmatched, kept his cool, and looked for openings anyway. It kept him alive. He lost and barely got out alive, but he kind of enjoyed the rush of slipping through danger. First step, he tried to go blank-faced. That deadpan look on top of his already ugly face ticked Kang off like Mu was mocking him, and it pushed Kang over the edge. Kang charged in to end it, Mu backing off and dodging as punches flew until his back hit a tree. He dug his foot in and kicked up dirt, but the guy had protective glasses. If anything, it just convinced Kang even more that Mu was some criminal who needed a beating. Mu, with his goofy-looking face, dodges every punch. Kang tries to appear behind him for a blindside, grazes Mu's chin, but Mu doesn't care. His plan is working, and Kang isn't as focused as before. Mu picked up on the big difference between the fights in the previous world and his current fights. Kang was way more aggressive, not defensive like people back in the day. Mu figured the ground was the key. Back then, people had to be careful due to uneven ground, but with the evolution of footwear, people became more aggressive, which is why he'd thrown the dirt, not to tag Kang's face, but to scatter grit and small rocks everywhere, messing with Kang's footing. He wants Kang to move recklessly and step on the dirt and small rocks he scattered before. Mu gets what he wants. Kang steps on a small rock, loses focus, and opens up. Mu bursts in, aiming for a vital spot, but midair he realizes his arm won't respond after all the blocks he took. He switches and drives his elbow instead, landing a heavy shot. Mu can't help himself and starts mocking him, laughing at how Kang missed. But while he's busy trash-talking, Kang swings his weapon and crushes Mu's leg, dropping Mu to his knees. Kang decides he'll make Mu unable to ever laugh again. Right before the hit, Mu knows he's lost. He closes his eyes and braces, wondering if after almost 4,000 years he's really about to taste failure again. Just then something flies in and smacks Kang in the face. Kang looks around for the attacker, then hears a voice calling Master and getting closer. He can't risk being seen. He throws on his sweatshirt, pulls up the hood, and sprints before anyone shows up. As he disappears, a small lizard-like creature steps out and calls. Mu looks over and sees it. This little monster is calling to him. He recognizes it. Lucifer took Mu's godly body and sealed it inside an unbreakable barrier so Mu's soul can't return. However, there was one small problem. He couldn't just walk into Earth to finish the job. The only way was to get Yang Yang to reveal how to reach Mu's planet. He promised that if he helped him get to Earth and take out Mu, he'd make the dragon the new god of Earth. Yang Yang just whispers so quietly Lucifer can't hear. Annoyed, Lucifer tells him to speak up. Yang Yang finally talks, points at the barrier around Mu's body, and asks if it can also stop attacks. Thinking he wants to rescue Mu, Lucifer brags that nothing can get through, calls it invincible, and tells him to give up and join him. Then the place starts getting brighter. Lucifer turns and sees Yang Yang's body glowing with energy. Yang Yang yells that he's going to self-destruct. Before Lucifer can react, the castle blows apart. The blast is so huge it burns an entire side of the god's realm. Yang Yang used all of his strength on that one hit and shrinks back to his weakest form, then bolts, knowing the only safe place left is back with his master on Earth. But Lucifer isn't letting him go. He bursts out of the dust, furious charges after him. Before Yang Yang could get away, Lucifer summoned a magical spear and hurled it with everything he had. The spear barely missed, and the Yang Yang leaped onto the miniature Earth, popping out in Earth's sky. Turns out fate dropped him right onto Kang's face. That's all he remembered, and after he explained it, Mu went quiet thinking. Mu wasn't sad as expected, he was furious at Lucifer, swearing that if he ever got his original body back, he wouldn't let Lucifer live another second. Then Mu's anger flipped to excitement as he realized he finally will have a chance to fight Lucifer again. Mu jumped out of his bed buzzing with energy, but he knew he couldn't beat Lucifer in this body. The only option was to work harder and make Lee's body stronger. Problem was, Lee's body was so wrecked that even throwing a light punch at the air made everything feel like it was breaking. Then it hit him. He told Yang Yang to find a magical orb last time. He turned and asked if he'd gotten it and brought it back. To his surprise, Yang Yang said he did. At Mu's request, he slowly coughed it up, explained it was a dragon bloodstone with a one-time healing spell, and he apologized for only bringing one. Mu picked it up, thanked Yang Yang, and said this was more than enough for now. He activated it right away and his wounds started closing up instantly, but that wasn't even the best part. Mu realizes the orb isn't just healing him. His muscles feel sharper, more responsive, almost sensitive in a way they weren't before. It's got a body enhancement spell mixed in. Seeing Mu's reaction, Yang Yang admits he put extra work into it and infused his own magic into the dragon bloodstone, very handmade, very proud. Mu thanks him, then looks at the leftover bit of the orb and figures not all the power was used up, since it hit a weak human body. He hands the piece to the little lizard and tells him he can use it. Yang Yang says he'll save it for Mu in an emergency and carefully tucks it back into the stomach pocket. Cut to a yellow lizard. It's the favorite pet of the girl from earlier. She treats it like a close friend and even wishes it could talk so they'd never be bored. She puts it back in its home and heads out to school. The beaten-up bully from before sits quietly with glasses on, focused on his studies. The pain from facing Mu seems to have straightened him out. Instead of causing trouble, he's prepping for exams. Mu makes his usual entrance and asks if he wants another round. Before the guy can answer, the president girl shows up behind him, acting all surprised that Mu actually came to school after being gone so long. Mu says he only came because she talked him into it, then adds, of course, he's really here to find someone to fight and beat. His look and his words make her wonder what he's planning this time. She just tells him good luck, choosing peace today. Down on the floor below, Kang and a girl from his class chat about what's been happening. She fills him in on the second year who got humiliated recently and starts laying out the details. She says he beat his bully so badly the guy passed out and went to the hospital, and if that wasn't shocking enough, he even tore off the guy's ear. After that, people started calling him neutralization. Kang listens, interested. School ends, they head for the exit while she keeps dishing details, how the victim looked, the torn ear, and how Mu's behavior that day seemed off. Kang finally connects the dots. The nerd she's talking about is Lee, but it's already done, so Kang decides to let it go for now. On his way home, he unknowingly takes the same route as Mu. Mu's annoyed that the day was so boring. Everyone was glued to notebooks or phones, no fights, nothing confirmed. Then he spots Kang walking with the girl. Because Kang wore glasses and a mask yesterday, Mu doesn't recognize him right away, but the shape of his muscles set off alarms. In a snap, he's sure and, of course, yells, "It's that guy from yesterday." The shout makes Kang turn. He sees Mu charging at him with a wild look and he bolts, sprinting away and leaving his waifu behind. He can't believe Mu recognized him despite wearing glasses and a mask, but either way, he can't get caught and risk this maniac reporting him. Kang suddenly cuts into a side alley. Mu follows, but when he turns the corner, Kang's gone. Yang Yang pops out of Mu's shirt and asks if that was the same person. Wanting to help track down the rude human, he asks to sniff him out using the strong scent he picked up when Kang hit him the day before. Mu says go for it and Yang Yang gets to work. Right then, someone steps in front of him, he almost gets stepped on. He looks up and surprise, it's the class president from Lee's class. She stares wide-eyed, then breaks into a blushy smile. She is hooked at first glance. Yang Yang doesn't know who she is, and he tells her to move so he can keep working, but she ignores him and scoops him up. He squirms and snaps at her, warning her not to mess with him, wishing he had even a little magic left to break free. He sees her as a nuisance, but she's just fascinated that a lizard is talking. To her, he's the cutest thing ever. He finally spots an opening, bolts out of her hands, and hides behind his master. He apologizes for failing because of the girl and blames it on losing his power. The girl comes over with a serious face and asks if that tiny creature is his friend. Mu goes, friend. Yeah, you could call it that, a very obedient one. She introduces herself as Kim Yujin, and it's obvious she's jealous that Mu has a talking, well-behaved rat. Mu can read it all over her face, even if he's not sure why she's so stunned and envious. He offers Yang Yang to her and says if she wants, he'll lend the little guy to her for a bit, in exchange for some information. She lights up at the offer. Trading a little info is nothing. Mu doesn't wait for an answer. He grabs Yang Yang by the neck and hands him over, saying, "Take him. Keep him as long as you want, but you have to help me find someone." Mu casually tosses the little guy toward her, and he lands right on top of her head, and Yang Yang can't believe his lord just sold him out like that. Mu heads off, telling Yang Yang to stick with Kim for a while and come back on his own later. Yang Yang tries to ask where his master is going without him, and Mu tells him he is going to the Sansujang at Kim's house. Yang Yang is, well, a little awkward. He sighs, introduces himself, and offers a tiny handshake. "Trying to keep it professional, by my master's orders, you'll be working with me from now on." Kim is thrown by the tiny lizard, but the way he talks makes her heart skip for a second. "By your master, do you mean Li Ho?" She says she's willing to cooperate, then grins and adds, "By the way, I'm the president of my class." Yang Yang asks, "What's a president?" Kim explains, "Basically the class leader, and I'm ranked first in my grade." He realizes that's why his master picked her. She must be strong. "Wait, so Lord Li Ho isn't the leader of your class?" Kim pauses, thinks it over, and says, "Li Ho, he's not even average. Honestly, he's near the bottom in everything." Yang Yang freezes, stunned. Then the tiny lizard blurts out in disbelief, sweating and flustered. He can't believe it, but he insists his master is the strongest in the world, stronger than any god. He puffs himself up, telling her to do everything she can to make his master even stronger. Kim takes it as the little lizard's wild imagination and sweet talk about his master, and she agrees to help, but only if he visits her often. He'd already planned to use Kim to get information about what's happening on Earth. He agrees without hesitation, and they make a deal. As a loyal servant, he's ready to do anything to help his master take back the title of the strongest. Meanwhile, Mu is training with his newly strengthened body. As the sun sets, he jumps down, looks himself over, and feels good. He recovered faster than he hoped, and his strength has substantially increased. He throws a random punch, this time at an iron rod, and the result satisfies him. For the first time, his hand doesn't even hurt. He grins, then the smile fades as he came out here hoping to run into Kang. He decides to head back, figuring he'll have a better shot at seeing Kang at school soon. Mu's sweat reeks, and while luckily no one's nearby to catch a whiff, by the time he wanders into Kim's neighborhood, the smell is strong enough to hit Yang Yang's sharp senses. The little lizard is at the girl's PC, then Dragon's senses kick in. He knows that smell. He jumps down, waves, and yells, "That's it for today," as he bolts out, bounding over rooftops and walls like an excited dog, following the trail straight to Mu. He lands on Mu's shoulder. Mu looks surprised as Yang Yang greets him and proudly says he finished what he thought was his mission. Yang Yang babbles that he even found a royal assistant who swore loyalty to Mu, and he's so hyped that Mu misses what's happening a few steps away. Then the lizard smells someone he'd chased earlier. He points it out, and he's right. It's Kang in the shadows, acting like Batman. The bike thief doesn't apologize. He threatens Kang, saying he'll send someone after him if Kang doesn't let him go. That just tells Kang he picked the right target, so he doubles down until that sense of danger makes Kang turn. As they face off, everything's tense except Yang Yang, who's facing the other way, insisting they're going the wrong direction. He keeps pointing at a restaurant, telling Mu to head that way, but Mu ignores him and focuses on Kang. They lock eyes. Mu looks dead set. Kang looks unsure. Mu starts closing the distance, slow and deliberate. Kang tries to explain there's a misunderstanding and tells Mu not to attack, but Mu doesn't listen, ready to swing. Kang realizes he has to defend himself and squares up. He'd beaten Mu before, and he hesitates now because he knows Mu isn't the kind of guy who deserves a beating like he once thought. But then nothing happens. Mu had been faking an opening attack to bait Kang into striking first, and Kang didn't bite. The thief who'd been watching, meanwhile, seizes the opportunity, snatching Kang's weapon. He rushes at Kang. Kang slips aside at the last second, turning his head and stepping out of the path, then sees the weapon headed straight for Mu. Mu takes the strike. He could have dodged or blocked, but he didn't, which told him everything he needed. Mu hits back right away, a hard kick to the thief's stomach, popping the weapon into the air, and Mu caught it before it hit the ground. Mu isn't done. He keeps pounding him, sometimes using Kang's weapon until the thief collapses. That satisfied grin fades fast. Mu realizes these one-sided beatdowns aren't fun. There's no challenge. He thinks back to when he first hit Earth, fighting Lee's bully and Hyung. Those were real matches. He decides the only opponent that matters right now is Kang, not this ugly guy. He looks around, but Kang's gone. A moment ago, Kang rushed off, while wondering how that crazy guy Mu keeps finding him. Meanwhile, he didn't spot Yang Yang across the street, accidentally kicked the little guy while running off, sending it flying. A little later, Kang gets home. He steps in, flicks his shoes off, and can't stop replaying Mu's freaky face, always ready to scrap with anyone. His sister comes in right then, teasing as she yells, "The prosecutor has arrived." Kang Hyuna switched careers after that stalker case and became a prosecutor to go after cruel criminals. Same goal as Kang, different path. She shoulders past him and goes, "How dare you block a great prosecutor's way?" Annoyed, Kang warns her not to make him use his powers. Hyuna heads to change, then calls out for him to make ramen for both of them. Kang thinks back to the day she got hurt. The only thing he feels when throwing a punch is anger, but it wasn't always like that back then when he first started boxing, even he enjoyed it. Next day, while everyone else heads to school, Mu does too. No backpack, no books, just Kang's weapon in hand and Yang Yang on his shoulder. The little guy looks wrecked, mumbling apologies for blowing it last night, and as usual, Mu doesn't care. Students pass by staring, even Lee's old bully eyeing the pair. Then Kim Yujin, the class president, of course spots Mu. She lights up upon seeing Yang Yang, but Mu reminds her about the favor she owed him for borrowing the talking lizard the other day. She said she'd heard about a guy like he described, a bully hunter who beat down anyone acting like a bully. Mu was a bit let down. He hoped for more, though he figured they'd run into this guy again, and next time he wouldn't let him slip away. Meanwhile, Kang is already there, creeping from behind. Kang steps in close and whispers, "Stay in your seat after class. I'll come find you," then takes his weapon and keeps going. Mu hadn't expected to face him so soon. Just hearing his voice made him excited. He let Kang walk away without a word. Seeing that, Kim wondered if Mu and Kang were friends or if there was something she didn't know. She asked Mu, still staring after him and waiting for their meeting after class. Mu answered with one line, "Bully hunter." From then until the end of class, Mu kept that eager look. He told himself he could wait as long as needed for a real fight, but his right leg wouldn't stop shaking, endless earthquake for Yang Yang, who had to spend the whole day dealing with the constant shaking. After the school day ended and everyone cleared out, Mu went straight to the class president and gave poor Yang Yang to her. He tells Kim Yujin he has something urgent to do. She happily takes the little lizard and heads for the exit. Right then, a hand pops up from the other side of the room. It's Kang. Of course it was Kang. The moment Mu's been waiting for finally shows up. Kang steps in, shuts the door, and calmly reaches into his backpack, pulling out training gloves and slipping them on. Mu's a bit surprised, wondering if Kang's about to do that belt trick Mu pulled before. As he finishes with the second glove, Kang looks at him and asks if he actually likes fighting. Mu shakes his head and says no, he doesn't. What he does like is the hit itself, the pain and shock when he gets punched. He likes the burn in his muscles when he pushes past the limit. And after more than 3 million years, fighting is the only thing that's ever made him feel alive. Thinking about that, Mu's face twists into an eager, almost creepy grin, and Kang hesitates, thinking this guy might be nuts. He lets it go, unzips his bag again, pulls out another pair of gloves and tosses them. Mu lets the gloves smack him in the face, then snatches them before they fall. Kang sets his bag in the corner and tells him to put them on, saying he wants to keep it fair. He can't take a fight seriously if his opponent isn't even a thug. Mu slips the gloves on, rushes him, and throws the first punch. Kang blocks and slips it, a little annoyed that Mu didn't even let him finish what he was going to say. He reminds himself he came here for a fight, so no point getting mad. After they trade a bunch of punches and blocks, both of them step back for a while. Kang uses that pause to reset, drawing on his pro boxing experience. He tells himself to relax, keep his body loose, and focus on control, not just power. Mu rushes in again. This time Kang's ready. He blocks clean without taking a hit, then cracks Mu on the jaw twice. Kang glances at his hand, feeling satisfaction. The power and accuracy surprise him, so he runs the same motion again on Mu like he's testing it. Loosen the muscles, rotate through the body, send it through the fist and even the fingers, drive it straight into the target. Now Kang looks fired up, eager to give Mu some painful, practical boxing lessons. Mu's impressed too, but instead of backing off, he gets even more excited. This is exactly what he wanted. On the third floor, a red-haired guy is dozing during night self-study when he suddenly starts trembling like he's having a nightmare, then jerks awake, confused about where he is. He spots a not-so-friendly note on his desk calling him out for always sleeping in class, shade in handwriting. He doesn't bother figuring out who left it, checks the time on his phone, decides to head out, grabs his backpack, and hits the stairs. Upon reaching the second floor, something catches his eye: two shadows having a fight. Mu and Kang are still going at it. Right then, Mu's cornered and stuck on defense. He thinks fast, lifts his foot and plants it on Kang's chest, stopping him and catching him by surprise. As Kang staggers, caught off guard, Mu went for a follow-up kick to Kang's face. Kang got his guard up in time and looks furious, asking why he was kicking when this was boxing. Mu smirked and said, "What are you talking about? I don't even know what boxing is." Before Kang could answer, Mu jumps in again, aiming another kick while taunting. "Who said we're only using fists?" The kick slammed into Kang and shoved him back. For a moment, Kang was rattled. He was a boxer, not ready for kicks, so Mu pressed it and landed one solid shot after another. Kang couldn't believe someone who looked that weak was kicking this heavy. Then Mu switched targets and aimed at a vital spot low. Kang froze. If that hit, he'd be done. Mu's kick landed clean, but nothing happened. Mu jumped back and put space between them, wearing a smug smile like he'd pulled his punch. In reality, he'd gone all out, but the physical boost from Yang had already faded. The second he realized it, he panicked. Without that power, he knew he couldn't beat Kang. Kang, still a bit shocked, sensed something was off. Mu wasn't the type to show mercy, so why didn't he finish it? Then Kang smirked and went, "Don't tell me you just lost your strength." He figured Mu was just exhausted. Mu kept a straight face, acting like Kang was wrong, but Kang had already convinced himself and started laughing. Mu looked stuck, like he didn't know how to keep this fight going. Behind the classroom door, the red-haired guy had been watching. The awkward fight and the weird laughing, like it was some comedy show, turned him off so much he just walked away, not interested in their silly fight, calling it disgusting. As Mu decides to play on defense, Kang sees his chance and rushes in to take advantage. Kang shot for a vital spot Mu had left open. Mu's knee didn't save him. One hit sent him spinning, handing Kang a clean opening. He smashed a heavy punch into Mu's head, launching him back. Mu hit the wall and slumped, and it hit him. With this body, he couldn't match Kang's solid, muscular build. One desperate idea came to mind. If he could tap a little of his original mana, he could overpower this guy. It wasn't exactly reliable, but it was all he had. He pushed himself up and tried to pull even a tiny bit of magic into his fist before lunging. Kang caught the punch midair like it was nothing and gave him a smug grin. Then Kang suddenly felt something odd and instinctively glanced behind him to see what it was. Mu didn't waste the opening and drilled a punch into his face. He grabbed Mu's other hand right after, ready to shut it down, when that feeling hit again. He turned to check it and Mu took the opening again, this time using his most reliable weapon, his head. The headbutt slammed Kang backward. He crashed into the classroom door and dropped completely out. Mu stood over him, trying to figure out whether his mana plan had actually worked or if he was just imagining it. After a moment, he realized he'd actually condensed air using the method since there is no mana on Earth. Cool as that was, he was more focused on what he wanted to do. He leaned in ready to do the ear thing he's done to others when Kang suddenly snapped awake, saving his ear for another day. Kang shoved Mu away and staggered up, still dizzy. He admitted he'd underestimated Mu and said he lost, but he wasn't giving up an ear. He looked like he wanted to mention something, yet with his nose throbbing and his head spinning, he couldn't string a sentence together, so he muttered an excuse and belayed fast. Watching him go, Mu looked disappointed. Adding Kang to his list of playthings wasn't happening today. A while later at Kim Yujin's place, Yang is about to depart with a bag twice his size, already sweating. On the way home, he spotted Kang in the distance, woozy and holding his busted face. He recognized him instantly, the guy who'd kicked him earlier for no reason, so he dropped the bag and launched, aiming a headbutt just like his master had done. But Kang, even dazed, saw him at the last second and swung, smacking the poor lizard midair. For a moment, Kang just stood there, startled and confused, not even recognizing what hit him and wondering what kind of dog just attacked. He turned away, hurrying home to rest. As soon as he disappeared, Mu stepped up to Yang's crumpled body, staring down at him. The next morning, Mu is back on the street heading to school, this time in a brand new uniform with Yang riding in his new backpack. The little guy carried the clothes in his backpack and asks how Mu likes them. He even bragged that Kim Yujin, Yang's subordinate as he calls her, bought the uniform and backpack for Mu just to keep him satisfied, and said he'd stay hidden for now to avoid attention. Across the road, Kang spots Mu and asks why he was wearing a school uniform on a Saturday. Mu just asked what Saturday even is, and Kang looked a bit annoyed but changed the topic and brought up what he'd meant to say yesterday. He asked again if Mu liked fighting. Mu gave the same answer, he fights because he has to. Kang didn't really buy it after seeing his face during yesterday's fight, the grin said otherwise, but he moved on and asked Mu to start hanging out with him, saying that if they did, he wouldn't be bored hunting for fights all the time. The moment Mu heard that, he started shaking, that scary, excited smile back on his face. Kang didn't need a reply, the answer was obvious. Then Mu blurted, "Take me somewhere I can fight right now." Kang then said he didn't mean now, he meant another time. From inside the bag, the Yang kept watch, plotting how to get his revenge for losing to Kang twice. It's Friday morning at Jairogi High, not Mu's school. A student stands guard at the restroom door blocking everyone. Inside, a big guy asks another student about how much he'd made. It was the same thief Mu beat up the other day. Shaking, the kid pulled out some cash and said it was only 20,000 won. The big, introduced as Yangzhou, blew up, saying it wasn't close to what he asked for. The thief complained that Kang got in the way and he could have made more by selling the bike. Hearing Kang's name, Yangzhou lost his cool, punched the wall, and ordered the guy to call everyone. On a Saturday evening, Mu and Kang are walking together. Kang thanks Mu and admits he used to fight in blind rage. After meeting Mu, he realized he could enjoy fighting. Mu told him then to fight him now instead of wasting time looking for random weaklings to beat up. Kang said he wasn't going to fight Mu now, but he promised they'd be bound to have a fair rematch soon. As he talked, Mu noticed smoke in the distance. Kang saw it too and said it smelled like cigarettes, so many at once the smoke was thick. Kang slipped on his mask and glasses, figuring their first target tonight was up ahead, moving in without hesitation, using the haze to sneak closer without being seen. Two guys were posted at the front, talking, with more lurking deeper in the alley. One of the front guys spotted Kang, figured he was just passing by, and told him to hand over his wallet. That was all Kang needed. He knew he'd found the target, so he punched the guy in the face. The other thug recognized him as the bully hunter and shouted a warning. More people were revealed down the alley, and Kang realized there were at least 5 more, and he called Mu over. Mu already stands ready as ever with his sweater over his head to hide his face. Kang charges first, yelling for Mu to follow, but Mu same as always can't start unless someone hits him first. The guy Kang had punched grabs Mu's leg and asks if he is with him. That was good enough for Mu. He counts it as a pinch and jumps in. A few minutes later, all the thugs are down. Mu is annoyed at how weak they were, noting their below-average respiratory systems. Kang then spots a small bag, picks it up, and gives it back to the victim, the red-haired girl from his school he likes. Before Kang could say anything, more guys showed up. The gang was here because one thug managed to message they'd spotted Kang, and they are here to punish Kang for messing with their so-called work. Kang decides it's time to get serious and pulls out his weapon. Mu's look flips to excitement when he realizes the fight isn't over. The real fun was just about to begin, a full-on brawl, his favorite kind of fight. Mu blasts through the group, dropping them one after another, then a heavy slap cracks across his face. It's Yangzhou, of course. With one clean hit, he sends Mu to the ground. Then he asks why there are 2 Kangs. Right next to the fight, the red-haired guy happens to pass by, muttering why no one answered his calls. He hears the noise and goes to look, sees the brawl, and the same disgust hits him, wondering if they have that much time to be fighting all the time. He's about to walk off, then spots the girl cornered and Kang standing in front of her to protect her. His name is Heejun, and his dad was an MMA champion, a guy he idolized, the strongest person he knew. But then his dad started using drugs to get stronger, and it felt like he had gone insane. His dad turned into a violent person, not only in the ring but also at home. His mom finally ran away from home, but she left the kids behind. Heejun, although he knew he couldn't last, had to protect his sister. He watched his dad's matches and practiced in secret. He grew, and when he eventually got to his dad's size, the incident happened. He finally stood up for him and his sister and fought back because he felt his life was in danger. His dad called him ungrateful, shouting that he'd kill Heejun and his little sister. Hearing that, Heejun, in that moment of anger and fear, killed his father. It was murder, but the court took his situation into account. He got 1 year in a juvenile detention center. And during that year, Heejun still went to school. While working to support himself and his sister, he couldn't afford to get sick or hurt, and treated his body like the only thing keeping them alive. That is why watching guys like Mu and Kang throwing themselves into careless fights always disgusted him. Heejun would never act like them, but now that he has seen his little sister, Daljun, being cornered, he knows he has to fight, which he never does unless there is a threat posing to his or his sister's survival. While Yangzhou stood there, still confused about why there were suddenly 2 Kangs, he didn't notice Heejun coming up behind him. Heejun comes out of nowhere and hits a weak spot, making Yangzhou drop to his knees. Heejun then grabs his head with one hand and slams him into the ground, putting the big guy down. While Yang keeps yelling for his master to wake up, Heejun steps on him, while getting by as fast as he could to reach his sister. Poor Yang doesn't even do anything and still always ends up beaten. Kang notices Heejun, dropping the bullies like they are nothing. With only 2 thugs left before they can react, Heejun grabs their faces and smashes them into the walls. Then he stops in front of Kang, staring him down, and says they'd crossed a line. Panicking, Kang starts to explain why he was there, but when Daljun yelled for her brother, Kang turned around, surprised because he didn't know she had a brother. Before Kang could process it, Heejun moved in. Just in time, Kang's reflexes kick in and he counters. Heejun slips past it, and instead of striking, just plants a hand on Kang, shoving him back. Heejun grabs Daljun's hand, telling her to run with him, and then they take off. She drops her wallet without noticing, and as they run, Yangjo stands there, blocking the alley exit, looking absolutely furious. Yangjo yelled, demanding to know who Heejun was and why he'd shown up, asking if that bastard is the third Kang. Heejun, not stopping for a chat, gets ready to force his way through, but before he can, out of nowhere, Yangjo gets punched in the face. It is Mu, back on his feet, itching for the fight. Heejun wonders who he is, but more importantly, he uses the opening to pull his sister out of there. While Mu is laughing, Kang snaps at him, asking why he exposed his face. Yangjo, meanwhile, is struggling to stand back up and searching for where that second punch came from, just in time to see them already running off. A while later, Kang sketched Yangjo and told Mu who the guy was and what they should do next. He said Yangjo was one of the 3 most infamous delinquents around. Together, they were called Godori, each one the top bully at their schools. Kang explains the situation further, noting that they have only recently started acting up. From what he'd seen, Kang said Yangjo was the key, which is why he acted like the leader back there. But even after all that, Mu still looks lost and asks Kang to explain what he is even yapping about. Kang snaps, asking if Mu even had a brain or if it was just for decoration. That's when Yang pops out of his hiding spot, not willing to endure the insults any longer. He yells at Kang and even calls him a bastard, demanding how he dared to be so rude to God Mu. Kang just looks shocked. He has no idea what a talking frog is suddenly doing here. Mu introduces Yang as his assistant or maybe a friend. Kang starts getting suspicious about Mu. He doesn't know even basic knowledge like the names of the days of the week, and now he's adding a walking, talking frog as his assistant. Mu is actually impressed that a human like Kang figured out he isn't human. They talk over each other. Kang asks if Mu's an alien, and Mu says he's a god. Kang says he doesn't look like a god, more like an idiot, and Mu immediately asks what alien even means. All this is happening in President Kim's house. She's wondering why they're even there, then her annoyance fades fast at the sight of Yang playing with her phone. Kang keeps it simple for Mu. The target is the big guy who slapped Mu and dropped him before Mu got a punch in, and just thinking about what happened back then makes Kang furious. Mu finally gets who they're after. He's happy he had a real fight, the unique experience of the difference in weight class after such a long time. Mu gets fired up at the idea of facing someone like that, but he knows his current body doesn't cut it. Kang agrees, says Mu tires out quickly, and tells him to come to his gym. Mu turns it down, saying he needs something more varied, more intense, and rougher. Yang, who's been playing with Kim's phone, found something, an underground arena with an undefeated fighter on a 13-win streak who puts people down in seconds. The girl streaming asks if anyone dares to face that fighter and says the winner gets 1 million won. Mu and Kang watch closely, then Kang recognizes the fighter and says he's with the Godori gang. That's all Mu needs. He sets his plan. Use this as training, beat Yangjo, then take down the Godori gang one by one. Meanwhile, in the Divine Realm, a powerful magical attack slams into the Earth God's domain. It's Lucifer, throwing everything at breaking Earth's barrier to get at Mu. As the dust clears around the small Earth, he stares, only to see the mini Earth with not even a scratch. He can't stand it, remembering how Mu broke the barrier of Lucifer's own planet with ease makes him furious. Yangjo is just as mad. He kicks and punches a door, angry at our boy and Kang, while someone is trapped inside of the bathroom wondering if it's that urgent. Yangjo walks out of restroom, getting worked up by neither getting money nor catching Kang. The same small guy from before tries to cheer him up and shows him Daljun's wallet she dropped earlier. Yangjo snatches it and shakes it, and a few measly coins clatter out, and he just loses it, thinking the little thief's mocking him with pocket change. Her student ID that falls too. He picks up the card, then grins, realizing he can use this. The next morning, Mu and Yang are outside, and Yang guides Mu through the streets. They're heading for the arena. Yang lets out a fart, and while the guy and his ugly dog jog beside them, the second it hits the dog's nose, it snaps. It lunges straight at Yang and bites him in the ass, then backs of. The dog calms down. Yang is left sore, and they break apart with both of them throwing angry glares. Yang decides the lowly creature, as he calls him, is just crazy, promising he'll get his payback once he gets his magic back. A while later, they finally reach their destination. The little girl from the video is at a table, going through applicants and either approving or turning them away. When it's Mu's turn, she spots his school uniform right away, even recognizes which school it is, and asks if she's right. Before he can answer, Dragon Yang whispers for him to just say yes. She moves on and asks what kind of fighting experience qualifies him for the arena. Mu doesn't get what she means at first, so she explains, boxing, wrestling, martial arts, even street fighting all count. He pauses and starts counting with Yang Yang helping him do the math. Mu blurts out that he has about 3 million years of fighting experience. The people in line crack up, but the girl running registrations actually likes his answer, passes him, and asks for the entry fee, 50,000. Yang Yang pulls out the cash. He'd used Kim's trust to swipe her wallet. Problem is, they only brought about 46,000, 4,000 short. The girl seems to like Mu and lets it slide. As he walks off, something makes him stop. There's a big guy in a green hat and jacket leaning on a post, and Mu stares for a few seconds. Serious build, defined muscles, clearly someone who trains. He hasn't seen the face yet, but he thinks this might be the goatery guy Kang mentioned. A few minutes later, right as the event is about to start, it's not a guy at all. It's a girl, or at least someone who looks a lot like one. The little streamer girl kicks things off by introducing the undefeated champion, while everyone else forms a wide circle around them. Whistle go, 13 wins in a row. Then Mu steps right into the middle like it's a straight one-on-one. He usually waits for the other guy to swing first, but not this time. Figuring standing in the center means both sides are ready. Before he can move, the host runs over and stops him. She pulls a paper from her pocket and tells him there are rules. This isn't a street brawl. He can't just jump the champion. It's a tournament, didn't he watch the broadcast? Mu backs off and goes along with it. Some while later, it's finally his turn. His opponent turns out to be the same guy whose dog went after Yang Yang earlier. The host introduces Mu as a self-proclaimed fighter with 3 million years of experience, then introduces the other guy as a Chinese martial arts master. Yang Yang watches from a distance, looking around as he hears people placing bets on the fight. Meanwhile, non-stop barking gets his attention. The dog looks familiar, and he realizes it's the same one that bit his butt on the way here. Fired up, he launches out of his bag with a huge jump that makes people look up, then lands near Mu. Mu asks what's going on, but Yang Yang ignores him and locks onto the dog. He calls the dog out for a fight in the arena, and somehow the dog gets it, bolts through the crowd, and stops in the middle. That's when its owner asks his dog, Cerberus, how he managed to untie his leash. The interviewer loves it. She announces a rare double match, master and pet fight as a team. Again and more dramatically, she hypes Mu and the Chinese guy, then announces the lizard against the Chinese mad dog. People wonder what kind of a lizard that is, having horns and wings. Then the girl calls the next match. The Chinese guy says he'd use an old animal-style technique and claims no unarmed person could handle it. He shapes his fingers like claws, tells Mu not to underestimate him, then rushes in. Mu just stands there, the Chinese guy all fired up, announcing his tiger-style finger strike, but Mu moves first, zero hesitation, and drives a punch into his stomach. He hits the floor, realizing he was the one who'd underestimated his opponent. Mu questions the style, saying that copying animals only goes so far, humans have limits. The boy pushes himself up, fighting the pain, and realizes Mu isn't some regular kid. He feels like a concrete wall. Refusing to quit, he decides to use the move his master told him never to use on people. He drops his hands to the ground and Mu just stares, wondering what this guy is trying to do. Meanwhile, most eyes are on Yang Yang and the dog. Yang Yang is drained and trying to figure out how to handle this crazy dog. He sucks at hand-to-hand combat, but the dog gives him no rest and charges in. Right before reaching Yang Yang, the Chihuahua stops, pulls a ninja-style trick that looks like Killua's rhythm echo. The crowd is stunned, especially the streamer girl, wondering if the dog is part of the Zoldyck family. Yang Yang suddenly has 3 dogs in his face. He guesses the one in the middle, but the real one was on the left. He slipped in and bit Yang Yang's neck. The scene cuts to the owner in a 4-legged stance, then blasts forward while Mu stays calm. People in the crowd laugh at the weird technique. His master is there too, as a spirit, a tear running down his cheek as he told the guy to not use that move on people, especially not in public. Mu tries to figure out the angle. As he is attacking from so far below, the guy leaps in and goes for a tiger paw strike, and Mu doesn't react in time. The Chinese boy swipes his face. If those had been real claws, Mu realizes he'd be dead. The kid doesn't let up. He charges again, mixing up all kinds of animal moves. One moment he moves like a cat, the next he bites Mu's leg like a chihuahua, then he tries a back kick to the face like a horse. Mu has never fought someone using their muscles like that, and he can't read his movements. Even so, Mu starts to get excited. His eyes slides to Cerberus besides him, ready to go at Yang Yang again, and it clicks. If the guy is copying 4-legged animals like his dog, the weak spot should match too. Right then, the Chinese guy rushes in again, but Mu suddenly drops to a knee, loading all his power into his legs, and suddenly he launches straight up. He jumps so high the guy loses him for a second, and the crowd starts going crazy. The martial artist finally looks up to guard, and Mu comes down, plants a foot on his head, and smashes his face onto the ground. Mu has finally found the answer against someone who fights on all fours, hit from above. People cheer, while a few groan over their lost bets on the Chinese guy. Mu glances over to check his assistant's fight and sees Chihuahua already won. Mu gives the dog a hard stare and it flops over, playing dead. The announcer calls Mu's win and the ugly-looking dog's forfeit. Mu steps in to leave his mark on the opponent while Yang Yang, barely hanging on, stops him and says it's forbidden. Mu lets it slide and lets the announcer move the event along. Now it's time for match 6. Mu versus a new opponent. It's Hayoung, the same guy Mu wrecked last time, still carrying marks on his arm and ear. Facing Mu again while not fully healed is the last thing Hayoung wants, but he steps up. Still, even though he doesn't feel like facing Mu again, who looks the complete opposite, he is excited about their rematch. Hayoung tells himself he should be fine as long as he doesn't drop his guard like last time, and the announcer kicks it off with, "Who's going to take on the undefeated champion?" Immediately both throw hands for the opener, they trade punches and somehow it's Mu who gets the shock. Pain shoots through his hand, he jerks his hand back, while Hayoung looks fine and a little relieved to finally return some of the hurt Mu caused for him. Mu steadies himself, he leans into the pain as proof he's alive, that's why he came to Earth, and his twisted look makes Hayoung flinch. Hayoung adjusts. He starts attacking Mu with quick jabs to shake him up, and then finish with a heavy kick since he figured Mu saw him as just a boxer and wouldn't see a kick coming. But before Hang could even swing, Mu read it from the way his muscles tensed. Mu jumps in, delivers a heavy blow to the guy's knee, just like Kang did to Mu, and then delivers the final blow. Copying the moves he learned in his fight against Kang and ignoring Yang Yang's warning, Mu tears off another piece of Hayoung's ear. No one in the crowd steps in to stop the crazy guy. Things calm down, and it is time for the final match against the girl with a 13-win streak. Mu is amped up, fighting 3 times in a day, what a blessing for him, and before the girl could even finish announcing the match, Mu rushes in. His opponent snaps a long leg kick at his face. It surprises him, but he gets his guard up in time and blocks. Mu realizes she is fast, and they go right back at it. The girl keeps firing off kicks, and Mu's stuck dodging and blocking. Unable to get close enough to throw anything back, she keeps her distance, making Mu have a hard time. Mu knows anyone from Godery is tougher than expected. He decides to try and pulls the same goofy face, wondering what he is supposed to do against her long reach. He jumps in to close the gap, keeping that dumb expression to distract her. Then she nails him with a kick to the face before he can reach her. He switches plans right away and whips a kick at her head, but his leg's just a bit too short. The spinning kick only knocks off her hat, leaving her surprised but unharmed. Mu backs off and the height difference becomes apparent. She decides to get serious. She rushes in faster, drives a kick at Mu, but he blocks with both hands. She immediately goes for another kick. Mu's in a bad spot. He realizes all of her attacks aim high, then right as it's about to land, he vanishes, and she's left looking around for where he went. She looks around and finds Mu, and that shocks her even more. He's down on all fours, copying the Chinese guy's style from earlier. He figures this is his best chance against the lamp post girl, and he switches styles and it's working. She's clearly not used to dealing with someone moving that low. Mu lunges like a dog. She goes for the same face kick as before, but her form's off now. The crowd starts cheering upon seeing this new approach working. The Chinese fighter from earlier is stunned that Mu copied his style after just one match, when he trained 5 years. He and even his master watch, hearing the same people who used to laugh at that style now cheer for it, and the guy's master blushes. Back to the fight, Mu keeps dodging, then decides to go in a fast circle around her. She senses he's about to hit from her blind spot. She spins and fires a kick. She connects, then checks what she hit, and it's only her own hat, and Mu pops up on her other side. In a blink, he's right in front of her. This time he's going for heavy behemoth imitation fist, something the girl definitely deserved. Mu originally is from Earth. However, about 3,000 years before he became the god of Earth, he was forced to live on Lucifer's designated planet, a place overflowing with mana. The animals there evolved into monsters, and Mu survived and grew stronger by hunting and eating them. One creature stood above the rest, a behemoth, massive and stronger than anything he'd faced. He throws together a simple plan. Rearrange his muscles to match the beast as close as possible and then strike. The tall girl is caught off guard and can only watch it come in. Mu slams into her so hard and fast, the impact launches her backward into a bench and table. She takes a moment to breathe. The impact leaves a sharp pain in her side, but Mu isn't letting her off. He leaps after the tall girl, going all in with both hands. Then midair, the announcer jumps in and stops him. She cut in, says the match is over because the tall girl had been thrown out of the ring. On stream, she announces Mu's win over the champion with a 13-fight streak. The crowd is annoyed at the lame result. He didn't even finish her properly, and the final ended very anticlimactic. The girl raps the broadcast like she is pleased. Then, annoyed, she tells Mu she'd give him his 1,000,001 prize and tells him to follow. A while later, she leads him into a quiet alley chatting as they walk. She explains the situation, telling him that so far he only won the right to challenge the final opponent, but there is still one left. Without warning, she spins, jumps, and drives her knee into his chest. And Mu is just standing there with his hands in his pockets. He drops right away, stunned and struggling to process it. The hit was way too much for his current body. Then she reveals herself. One of Godori's top 3, Kim Chungu. Mu wasn't actually surprised. From the way Chungu tensed up, he could tell an ambush was coming, and he chose not to dodge or block so he could fight again. He just didn't expect how hard she'd hit. The blow left him unable to move, and all he could do was watch her walk away. The tall girl nearby has been waiting to back her up. Upon seeing Chungu, she looked ashamed and kept apologizing for letting her guard down and causing trouble. Chungu told her it was fine and urged her to hurry, and they took off. Mu barely crawls toward the street, and in a shaky voice he says while crawling not to go, and that he could still fight. He calls out to Yang Yang for the healing orb so he can chase them, but Yang Yang isn't here. Cut to Lee's bully, who is sprinting with something tucked under his shirt, sweating and panicking, wondering how it got this bad. A few days earlier, Hyung showed him an online gambling site. He tried a few games to make a little extra cash, and blew 5,000,000 won from his mom's account. Terrified of what his parents would do, the only logical conclusion bro can think of is to gamble it all back. There is a place, he heard, that gives student loans using collateral. The man at the counter gives him an annoyed look and says, "What the hell is this?" The bully catches his breath, unwraps the bundled shirt, and out comes Yang Yang, unable to speak. He pulls up a photo of a tuatara, a rare lizard from New Zealand, holds it next to Yang Yang, and tries to sell it as a mutated tuatara. The clerk looks unconvinced and glances toward a quiet man in the corner. He walks out of the place not happy at all. It's only 1,000,000 less than he hoped, still better than nothing, and he goes right back to gambling. Right then, a person in a hoodie, whoever they were, brushes past. At the desk, they set down a Daljan school ID as collateral. The man in the black suit behind the counter tells them to take off the hoodie. Under the hood, it's clearly not Daljan. The guy says that she has edited the photo a lot. Still, the student id is worth 500,000 won. He hands over and subtracts the interest up front, which is 50,000, and reminds her to make payments on time, in 1 week. She rushes out, glancing around as she goes. The guy behind all of this, Yangjo, steps in and stops her, asking if she got the cash, and she pulls out the cover, calling it a success. They keep walking, and she asks him why she had to go. Yangjo replies he couldn't borrow money from that place. Back inside Grandma Money Collateral, the boss in the purple hoodie is fiddling with Jun's ID. His employee comes over and asks why he lent money to those shady students when it's clear they can't pay it back. The boss just smirks, scored some money, flicks the card so it sticks into a wooden board, and says not to worry, there are plenty of ways to get his money back. That board is where Yang Yang is tied up, right in the middle, with a bunch of other ID cards around it. The next day at school, a scream blasts down the hall. It's President Kim. She's just learned Yang Yang has been missing since yesterday. Mu had only mentioned what happened because he thought it went to the girl's place, but seeing her reaction, he realizes he was wrong. Kim loses it, tears through the classroom, then bolts out to check the rest of the school. Mu is stunned by how hard she's freaking out. In another classroom, Kim bursts in, yelling Yang Yang's name while checking on all lockers. Kang happens to be in that class. He doesn't really know her. A few minutes later, the door creaks open and Ronnie Coleman walks in carrying the class president, then tells her to go straight to her seat and stop causing trouble. She turns around upset and tells Mu she searched the whole school but still can't find Yang Yang. Mu stays calm. He already knew it wouldn't be at school. He says he lost it after the arena, not here, which makes Kim snap and ask why he didn't say that sooner. Mu lays the hand-drawn map on his desk. Kim recognizes it as the one she drew the other day and gave to Yang Yang to help him find the arena. Mu points to the spot where he last saw it. Kim grabs the map and runs for the door, but Ronnie Coleman spots her and sprints after her, and catches her in seconds. She begs him to let her go just this once, but he refuses and brings her back again. Mu's mind's elsewhere anyway. He's stuck on his unfinished fight with the top 3 Godori members. Every time he gets close to finishing it, someone interrupts, and he can't stop thinking he needs to do something about it. The problem is his body's in rough shape, which annoys him. Sure, he only pushed a few muscles for a bit, but now everything aches, and like always, he loves the pain because it makes him get to fight fiercely. He wants back in the ring to finish it, but he needs another healing orb, and to get that, he has to find Yang Yang first. The school day ends, and when the bell rings, Kim grabs Mu's hand and drags him out immediately. They hit the stairs and bump into Kang. Kang recognizes Kim and asks why she's rushing. Kim says Yang Yang has been missing, but Daljun cuts in, complaining she can't find her wallet. Kim suddenly asks if Jun is Kang's girlfriend, and both of them shoot it down fast. Kim apologizes, then starts begging them to help her find the dragon. She treats it like her own pet. Mu explains it used to be huge but shrank to a small size and adds more details, then realizes everyone has already wandered off and no one's listening. He stands there a second, feeling left out, then shrugs it off. He'll focus on training and recovery while the other three search for his assistant, perfect outcome. Meanwhile, in the school bathroom, Yangjo's on the toilet gambling on his phone. There's a loud bang as he headbutts the stall door from excitement. He didn't lose, actually the opposite. On his last try, he hits the jackpot and lands what looks like a massive reward. Yangjo is over the moon. He started picturing what he'd do with the money. He could finally pay off his debt before interest kicked in, and decided to cash out right away before he did something dumb. But when he finally hit the claim button, something was off. He tried again and total scam. He couldn't pay out. 6 days later, we're back with Mu. Instead of helping search for Yang Yang, he stands in the middle of the hallway, staring at Ronnie Coleman with that signature creepy grin, itching for a fight. Meanwhile, President Kim and Daljun have been running a full-on search all week. Even Kang helped where he could, but there's no trace. Kim and Daljun finally sit down to rest. Kim apologizes for dragging Daljun into this, especially because she is a senior, but she just smiles and says it's fine since she doesn't study anyways. Even so, Kim's fed up with Mu for not helping at all when it's his dragon in the first place. Kim offers to grab her a drink and tells her to relax. As soon as Kim walks off, a suspicious man steps up behind Daljun with her ID card in hand. A few minutes later, Kim comes back with a bag of drinks and other stuff, and she finds Daljun's seat is empty. A few days earlier, we saw Mu acting weird in front of the big teacher, but he wasn't trying to provoke him or pick a fight. Honestly, he was just impressed by the guy's build. He even touched the teacher's chest and said he must have been working that area a lot recently. The teacher almost pointed out how informal Mu was talking, but since Mu praised the effort he'd put into those muscles, he let it slide. Then Mu casually announced he was joining the teacher's training session, like he didn't need permission. Cut to the guy running the pawn shop. He is holding Daljun's ID card. Daljun showed up and yells at him to hand it back. He glares and says they have it because she left it as collateral when she borrowed money. Daljun is shocked and insists she'd never been there or borrowed anything. The secret boss with his ugly purple hoodie steps in, slams the desk, and demands to know why she was pretending not to remember when it was time to pay up. Realizing arguing wouldn't help, Daljun asks how much she needs to pay to get her ID back. The clerk said it was 550,000 won total, with 50,000 won of that as interest. Daljun tries to act cool and says she could pay soon. It isn't even that much. Then the enforcer drops her ID into a drawer and tells her she has 1 week before they will come looking for her. Daljun tells them not to lose her card, then storms out and slams the door. The slam annoys the employee, saying kids are hopeless these days, and his boss takes one look at his face and thinks it's aimed at him. The boss calls it out, the guy starts sweating and apologizes and promises he wasn't talking about him, and the rest of the day ends quiet. The same employee wraps up, locks the office, and tosses the key onto a flower pot before heading out. He mutters about taking orders from a tiny little brat like him, then goes downstairs, not knowing Daljun is hiding upstairs waiting for this moment. As soon as he leaves, Daljun heads for the office to grab her ID and go. The door's locked, but she spots the key on the flower pot, unlocks it, and slips inside without a sound. No way she is giving her money to scammers. Right after she goes in, someone else quietly enters the building. She goes straight to the desk, yanks open the drawer, and finds her ID card. Relieved, she decides to get out fast, but as she passes a cabinet, something inside makes a loud noise. She opens it and finds a cage. At first it's too dark to see, then a pair of glowing eyes and a face come into view. It's Yang Yang. He immediately starts yelling to be let out, not even checking who opened the door. Daljun has never seen the dragon before and it freaks her out. She steps back and bumps into someone. She turns around, turns out Yangjo is right behind her. She doesn't recognize him, and he looks just as surprised, then sees she's about to scream, so he covers her mouth and whispers to stay quiet so no one notices him. He then realizes she's the girl whose ID he used to borrow money the other day. He tells her he's here for his own ID too and suggests they both grab what they came for, keep it quiet, and get out fast. Daljun nods, feeling calmer now, and scoops up Yang before leaving. She remembers his face on the missing poster Kim drew. They look exactly the same. Walking out, she thinks these people are awful for even locking up someone's pet, and without her knowing, a security camera catches everything. The next morning on her way to school, Daljun spots Kim and runs over, calling her name. Kim is stunned to see her safe after she went missing the day before and starts to say how worried she was, but Daljun just smiles, skips the explanation, and unzips her backpack and Yang's hands pop out. Then he crawls out, gasping for air. Kim rushes over and hugs him tight, saying how much she missed him. While she's squeezing him, Yang catches a familiar scent and bolts toward it. Mu is walking by when Yang grabs his arm, not realizing Mu's arm is already in bad shape, so he immediately knocks Yang to the ground. Realizing who it is, Mu doesn't apologize. He just tells him to be careful and says his whole body hurts from training. Kim runs over, screaming at Mu out for treating Yang like that. At the pawn shop, the staff notice 2 ID cards and Yang are missing. They check the cameras and see Daljun sneaking in and out, then Yangjo following, grabbing his own ID and leaving. The guy in a black suit asks the boss what to do, which sets him off. He almost hits the guy for being careless with the keys, then stops himself and cools down. Still, the fact that 2 high schoolers broke into his office and challenged him enrages him. At school, it's gym class and some kids start a soccer game. One excited kid winds up for a shot, not realizing Mu is right in front of him. Mu doesn't flinch and lets the ball smash him in the face. He takes it and ends up with a bloody nose. The ball drops and Mu charges the bald kid who kicked it. Before he can react, Mu reaches him and punches him in the stomach. The kid goes down and Mu stands over him, and the other students rush in. Before that kid gets neutered too, the students rush in and the teacher on the other side finally notices something's wrong. Mu is actually having a blast. He wonders if this is what physical education is like and calls it fun. Kim and Yang find a quiet spot. She hands him her old phone and says he can text or call her if he needs anything. Since neither Mu nor Yang have a phone, she figures he should keep it so they can reach each other. Yang stares at the phone. He clearly doesn't get it. She's about to start from the basics when he locks onto something behind them, Lee's old bully, still glued to that stupid gambling game, as usual, losing his money. Yang recognizes him as the guy who kidnapped him and kept him locked up. He drops the phone and sprints over. The bully looks up, but before he can say anything, Yang jumps on him and bites his head hard. The guy panics and pulls Yang off, tossing him to the ground before taking off at full speed. Mu is walking with the Hulk teacher, who's trying to explain he can't just hit anyone who touches him, or he won't be allowed in training. Right then, the bully slams into Mu, loses his balance, and eats the floor. Mu looks down at him, grins, way too delighted, and says, "Hey, it's gym time." He jumps on the guy and starts beating him until the teacher steps in and physically drags Mu off. And just like that, Mu's exciting day ends. On the way back to his place, Kim walks with Mu. He's still daydreaming about having gym class like that every day, but Kim tells him real P isn't like that. She switches topics and asks if Mu isn't training today and if she can hang out with Yang for the rest of the day. She even invites Mu over, saying she'll show both of them how to actually use a phone. Daljun and her classmate are chatting and laughing. Kang is on the same route, rubbing his sore neck like he must have slept funny. Not far back, Daljun's brother Heejun is on the phone with his class president. Someone suddenly steps into Daljun's path and calls her out as wallet owner. Yangjo, looking beat up, asks for her student ID and says what they did was caught on security cameras, and he needs to return her ID to whoever's looking for it. Daljun is stunned. She barely recognizes him, and none of it makes sense to her. Yangjo gets mad and starts yelling for the ID right now. He goes for her backpack to find it himself. The commotion finally catches Kang and Heejun's attention, and the second they see the big guy hassling Daljun, they charge straight at him. They rush past Mu, who still hasn't noticed what's going on. Meanwhile, Yangjo tries to snatch Daljun's ID card, and before he can do so, Kang and Heejun leap in and swing at him together. But their punches don't land because Mu steps in out of nowhere and blocks both. He isn't helping Yangjo, he wanted a one-on-one. Kang and Heejun freeze, stunned that Mu had just saved Yangjo. Yangjo is thrown off too, then looks closer and remembers Mu from their last run-in, which hadn't gone well for him. Yangjo then grabs Daljun and bolts. Mu just watches like a total clueless goof and Daljun yells for help. Heejun and Kang react fast and take off after Yangzhou. Mu sees them chasing, he figures they are after the same fight, so he runs too, shouting to fight him first. Yangzhou ducks into an alley to shake them, they all follow and he ends up boxed in. Kang recognized the place, the same alley where he and Mu first showed up when Daljun was being held captive. Yangzhou drops Daljun off his shoulder and she hissed the ground. He tossed his backpack, squares up, and dares all three to come at once. He figures they must be the three bully hunters who ran from the fight earlier. Mu steps forward and says he'd fight Yangzhou alone. Heejun shoots Mu a look and starts yelling. He'd only met this guy a few times and didn't even know his name, but one thing was obvious to him. Mu was just messing around. Heejun, looking fed up, asks why Mu blocked their attacks earlier and asks if he will take responsibility if Daljun gets hurt. Mu can tell he's mad, but instead of apologizing he says, "I'll fight you after I'm done with him." Right then, a hand lands on Mu's shoulder. He squeezes hard, pain shoots through Mu, and Mu turns and yanks free, then Yangzhou grabs him again with a different plan. Yangzhou slips a foot behind him and hits a quick leg sweep, flipping Mu and slamming him to the ground. Mu lays there surprised, eyes wide. While that's happening, Heejun charges in and grabs Daljun's hand and once again runs away, because avoiding fights is how you survive, especially with his sister to protect. Yangzhou sees them go but can't stop them. Meanwhile, Mu looks fine. Somehow he expected to be wrecked, but there's barely any pain. He realizes his training paid off. He tightened his back as hard as he could and barely felt anything upon hitting the ground. He flexes his back once again and releases all at once, and pops up without using his hands. Kang asks Mu if he needs help finishing Yangzhou, and of course, Mu waves him off, saying he's got it. Yangzhou tries to catch him off guard. He switches tactics, snags Mu's right arm, grabs his shirt with the other, and slams him down again. Mu barely feels it, chalks it up to training, but he's missing what's really happening. Every time he hits ground, Yang is under him, eating the impact. Then Yangzhou's foot comes straight for Mu's face. Mu jumps back to a safe distance and his expression hardens. He thinks Yangzhou just took a shot at his assistant on purpose, and for once he actually cares about Yang. He charges in, unloads a flurry of punches, not giving Yangzhou a second to breathe. Yangzhou can only cover up while the hits keep coming. Mu keeps swinging and Yangzhou wonders how someone that light hits that hard. Realizing he's about to lose control with Mu rushing in, Yangzhou plays his last card. He rushes in to body slam him with his full weight while asking who the hell Yang is. Mu's grin vanishes as he reads it. Yangzhou's is like a boulder flying at him. Mu plants his feet and meets Yangzhou head-on, ready for the hit. But the size and weight gap is brutal. Yangzhou shoves him back and tosses him aside. Yet Mu lands near Kang without a scratch. Kang, who's been calmly watching, asks again if Mu needs any help. Mu declines, hands Yang to him and puts on a brave face but has no idea how to handle a guy that big. He gets an idea. He should be aiming for weak spots. There is no rock his fists can't break. So he dashes to Yangzhou's blind side and cracks 2 quick shots into his weak spots. Yangzhou spins around, but Mu's already hopped to the other side, then drills 2 more into the front of his thighs. The hits almost topple Yangzhou, and he has to throw his hands out to steady himself. Realizing he can't keep up if Mu keeps darting around, Yangzhou tries a trick. He points past Mu and yells, "This is 1-on-1. 2-on-1 isn't fair." Mu actually turns to tell Kang to stay out, saying it's fine, only to see Kang not having moved since taking Yang. Before he can process the feint in a flash, Yangzhou locks a rear naked choke around Mu's neck. Mu realizes it too late and can't break the grip. Kang watches and hesitates, then sees Mu's face changing color as he struggles, so he starts toward them. Mu tries to say something, but Yangzhou's crushing his throat. With only a couple of steps left, Mu manages to muster up everything he's got and screams, "Don't help." Kang freezes. He isn't sure Mu's okay, but then he spots that familiar grin and Mu tells him to never help him. Mu's still in trouble. The choke is cutting blood to his brain, and he knows he might black out any second. He's got a plan, though. He suddenly tightens his neck muscles to bulk his neck up, then immediately does the opposite, contracting hard so it compresses and leaves a tiny gap for a split second. He slides both hands into that space between his neck and Yangzhou's arms, and goes on the counter. Mu squeezes with everything he has and Yangzhou can't take the pain, and Mu slips free. Yangzhou only gets angrier, which makes him easier to read, especially since he's already in rough shape. Watching him, Mu could tell Yangzhou was at his limit. He looked like he only needed one clean shot in the right spot to fall apart, and Mu clenched his fist, ready to finish him. A few days earlier, Mu had been training with the Hulk teacher. He told him form was everything and showed off heavy squats, got under the bar, lifted it, and went up and down, telling Mu how great it felt on the legs. Mu watched the teacher's leg muscles and studied his movements. After racking the bar and taking a short breather, the teacher saw Mu walk up to try it. He was shocked and asked if Mu was serious, especially with all that weight on. But Mu lifted the bar off the rack and took a step, and while his face stayed calm, his legs wobbled and even bowed out. Realizing Mu really meant to squat that load, the teacher tried to talk him out of it. Mu didn't listen. He wasn't being reckless. He just had a different approach. Mu was a master of muscles, though master doesn't even begin to describe it. Mu could control his body in any way he liked. He mastered a technique that let him boost any muscle group whenever he needed it. He was able to distribute muscle fibers as he liked. With that, he can pull off things normal people can't, like smashing a building as big as the pyramids of Egypt with one punch. He hasn't used it in a long time, mostly because he hasn't needed to. But right now, that technique is more effective than anything else. Back then, right in front of the teacher, he shifted his arm muscle fibers down to his legs and cranked out squats faster than the teacher. Now he moves the fibers from his left arm to his right, bulking his right arm up. Kang watches and asks if he's okay, and Mu just glances at him and remembers the move Kang used when they first fought in class and decides to copy it. He mirrors Kang's technique and throws a heavy shot to Yangzhou's midsection, going for power over speed. Yangzhou brings both hands up to block, but the punch blasts through his guard and knocks him out, shattering the massive boulder into pieces. Mu stands over him, feeling good about dropping a guy of his size, then realizes he won. Like with his last opponents, he tears off a piece of Yangzhou's ear and marks him as neutered. Heejun and Daljun are heading home. Heejun asks if she knows why that guy keeps coming after her. Daljun apologizes for dragging him into it again, then starts from the day he first stepped in to save her from those thugs, and how she dropped her wallet as they ran. She explains that her ID somehow ended up at a pawn shop and tied to a 550,000 won debt in her name. No matter what she said, the owners wouldn't believe she wasn't the one who borrowed the money. She tells how she managed to get her ID back and while trying to get away ran into Yangzhou. After hearing all of it, Heejun is furious. He calls the class president, polite even while raging, and says he won't be at today's meeting. At the pawn shop, the boss and his employee are chatting when the door slams open and Heejun storms in. The annoyed boss turns, and Heejun nails him with a punch, then keeps swinging while the employee in the black suit is shocked and secretly rooting for Heejun to see his bully boss finally getting beaten up. Still, the guy grabs the phone and calls for backup. Two huge guys rush in from the next room to block Heejun and to put him down. Heejun stares them down, not scared. He's usually calm, but the dangerous side of him, tied to the demon he hates, starts to surface, and he doesn't even know it yet, however his blood runs through his veins. The door they'd kept locked to keep the noise down is now hanging open after one of the big guys gets thrown through it. Heejun dropped the whole crew and barely got a scratch. He asked why they were shaking down his sister for money when she never borrowed a thing. The guy in the purple hoodie tried to warn him about messing with them, but Heejun doesn't care. He tells them he'd come back and make them pay if they ever go near Daljun again, then walks out. Their boss feels the same, swearing he'd make Heejun regret it. Kang and Mu are walking. Mu is still riding high off the Yangzhou fight, while Kang just stares and finally asks how Mu made his arm puffed up like that. Mu grins and shows him, shifting muscles from one arm to the other. Kang watches the whole thing, tries to replicate it, and of course fails. Mu tells him he hasn't yet learned to communicate to his muscles. Each one's different, so he needs to listen to them one by one. He breaks it down more. If you figure out each muscle and get them working together, you can make them do what you want, and you can control them however you like. Kang just looks more lost and keeps trying. Yang finally speaks up, asking why Mu was handing over his secret techniques. Mu shrugs and says if Kang gets stronger, it'll make things more interesting, and he needs tougher opponents to level up and get better faster. On top of that, Mu needs to get strong enough to stand a chance against Lucifer. Yang says the earth barrier around his territory was solid and Lucifer couldn't break it anyways, so there was no rush. Mu, however, is confident Lucifer would find a way and he wanted to be ready. He said from now on it's nothing but training. Cut to the boy in the purple hoodie getting called in by the real boss, his uncle. The kid explains everything was going very good, explaining his system of giving people loans, then luring them in and so on. The uncle just flashes his golden teeth and tells the boy his tongue is getting longer, and asks if he is scared he won't hand him the business one day. Every business has ups and downs. Still, the uncle was disappointed he couldn't even keep a small pawn shop in line when he even assigned guys to watch his back. He let it slide for now, and let his nephew out. Meanwhile, on another floor, The three pawn shop guys who'd been beaten by Heejun were stripped and roughed up by the big boss's men for failing against just one high school kid. He hit the blonde one and told him to open his mouth, then tossed in a blue pill, not the naughty kind. The blonde man is dragged away and warned him not to spit it out or else he dies. Back with the big boss, he takes his nephew down in the elevator to the lower floors. And on the way, he starts talking about how the business he ran wasn't bad. Main problem though, the main targets were broke students. The CEO uncle steps out as the elevator opens. They walk out, then stop. An enormous underground arena stretches out in front of them, packed with hundreds of spectators waiting for the next match. The purple hoodie kid just stares, totally stunned, while the CEO uncle explains big money comes from big games. A fighter steps in from the side and the uncle nudges him to watch closely. The guy looks off, purple veins running across his neck and body, and the nephew realizes it's the blonde who worked at his pawn shop a few hours ago, the one who was forced to swallow that weird blue pill. Both fighters enter the arena and the match starts. The blonde rushes in, grabs the other man's arm and swings. The opponent braces to block, but the hit blows through it, snaps his bones in an instant. The guy screams, but before he can react, a second punch from the other side crushes his face. The blonde guy loves the sudden power and can't believe it is really his strength. Up in the VIP seats, the CEO and his nephew watch the one-sided beatdown. The CEO pulls out the same blue pill he gave his fighter and tells his nephew, "One of these lets me pick the winner of any match," then hands it over. The kid just stares at it, thinking about how easily he could beat Mu with that pill. At the gym, Mu is grinding through his routine and finishes with squats. He racks the bar and steps back and his whole body looks way bigger, veins standing out like he's been bodybuilding for years. "Man, I feel amazing after that set. My whole body's tingling," he tells his teacher. The teacher just stares, shocked, then says he's seen plenty of gym rats but never anyone bulk up this fast. He starts wondering if Mu's using something. Mu then says he is weak, but the teacher cuts him off and goes on about the dangers of that kind of stuff. He only stops when Mu insists, "I said I am weak." Mu is still far too weak to face Lucifer. If he wants to fight him, he is nowhere near ready. Mu, looking really buff, now wanders around with Yang tagging along, wearing Kim's phone like a belt. The phone buzzes and Yang jumps, but he remembers what Kim taught him, answers, then presses it to Mu's ear and tells him to take it. Kim starts yelling, asking where he is and why he hasn't let Yang show his face since last week. Mu doesn't explain much. He just says he came to see how his training paid off. Back in the same alley where that little annoying girl beat Mu up. The two girls are there again, feeling good after making money with 8 participants and stream donations, not knowing Mu has already found them. Mu calls them out, they turn at the same time, and Mu grins, "Long time no see." Chungo jumps up, tells him that apparently she didn't hit him hard enough, then rushes him. He doesn't move, lets her come in, and just like last time, she leaps and drives her knee into his chest. She thinks she got him, but as she lands, Mu only takes a step back with his hands still in his pockets. Yang asks if he's okay and Mu gives his usual grin, he's fine. Mu isn't making the same mistake as before. He'd already braced and tightened up to protect that spot before he lacked the necessary muscle mass, but now he doesn't so the knee didn't do real damage. After taking the first hit, he decides to go for real, charging in with Yang sitting on his head. Using his new strength, he closes the gap fast and starts throwing punches at her. Mu sees the shift, he's the bigger one now, unlike when he fought Yangjo. He doesn't give her a second to breathe, swings a heavy kick into her side and feels it land, his grin getting wider. But she grabs his foot midair and now she's clearly pissed at the hit and at him treating her like she's weak just because she's smaller. She drives her elbow straight into his knee, aiming for the spot that'll hurt most. He still doesn't go down though, and it's obvious he's changed since their last fight, so she stops holding back. She rushes in, cracks an elbow into his jaw, follows with an upward elbow to another spot on his jaw, then spins and slams a third elbow at his side, putting everything into it. She lands all of it clean, but Mu's still on his feet. Her confidence wavers when she sees that same creepy smile. He takes the opening, grabs her by the collar like Yangjo did to him the other day, and slams her to the ground. He dives in to smash her face, but she slips out at the last second. Mu then shifts most of his strength from his upper body, even his neck, down into his legs and hips, then charges, looking goofy as hell. But that wasn't all. Right before he reached her, Mu flipped it. He shifted power from his legs to his upper body and body slammed her hard. She flew back and only stopped when she crashed into the tall girl who blocked her. Worried for her friend who is ranked higher than Yangjo, the tall girl jumps in. She rushes Mu and starts firing those long kicks like last time. Mu blocks them and decides to break through. He launches forward, swinging straight at her face, not holding back. Then the small girl cuts in at the last second and nails him with an elbow to the face, almost putting a new hole in his face. The girls then attacked together from both sides with kicks and punches, teaming up and pushing Mu back while he tried to hold his ground. Even then, he could tell his training was working. A few days ago, he wouldn't have lasted against both, but to truly turn it around, he needed something new. He glanced at Yang Yang and said he'd found a way to extend his range. So he grabs Yang Yang by the tail, spins him up and charges, shouting, "It's 2-on-2 now." The girls are thrown off by his bold move. Mu rushes in with Yang Yang as his weapon, smacking both girls with the lizard. He goes to swing again, but the short girl steps in and knocks Yang Yang out of his hand, and they trade kicks and punches, while Mu fires back. He grabs Yang Yang again out of the air, doubling down. The short girl knows using a weapon makes you vulnerable. Close the gap and the arm holding it is useless, so she does and cracks him with an uppercut. Yang Yang is launched out of Mu's grip, lands on the tall girl and hits her with a dragon kick. Meanwhile, Mu had braced his neck, so her uppercut didn't do much and Mu headbutts the short girl. The short girl drops, lights out fast. Yang Yang is still clinging to the tall girl, but she rips him off, tosses him, and drills a heavy kick into Mu's side, and for a moment it looks like she hit him good, but in the end it did nothing. He'd tightened his core, so he catches her foot and smashes his elbow into her knee, just like the short girl did to him earlier. She screams and fires another kick with her other leg. Mu catches that too, spins her, and even though he likes strikes more than locks, tries one for old time's sake. He twists both her legs up behind his neck and she can't do anything to defend. Mu pulled the ancient Egyptian joint lock. She yells that her legs are about to snap and gives up. She yells for him to stop, she surrenders. Mu lets go and moves in to mark her, but she twists free, kicks him, and jumps back. Mu wonders if she still has some fight. While she's digging in the short girl's pocket, he rushes, but she throws all their cash in his face like a smoke bomb and they both vanish. He's left annoyed he couldn't leave his mark, so he picks up her hat and decides he'll mark her next time. The tall girl carries the knocked-out girl away, telling her to get to her senses again, but she is out cold. Cut to Yangzhou, fuming about the bully hunters ruining his plans. He swears he'll kill them and kicks a rock. It stops at someone's feet. Yangzhou squints and asks if the guy's some kind of bird. The guy says he's Quack Dujun from Chuku High and asks who's been beating Yangzhou up. Yangzhou snaps at his tone. Quack says his mouth still works and it can take a few more hits. Yangzhou isn't impressed since Quack got wrecked by the short girl before and grabs his shirt. Quack hesitates, then cracks a blue pill and laughs, which sets Yangzhou off. Quack's veins bulge like that guy from the ring and Yangzhou swings, saying he'll knock every last tooth out. Then, a moment later, Yangzhou is defeated and slumped against a wall, beaten to a pulp. Next day, the girls are walking outside, grumbling about handing Mu all their money and losing the hat. Quack shows up. The short girl asks what he wants, and he just pops another blue pill again. He changes and his veins pop out and even his eyes start glowing, and he says with a grin that their luck ran out. In Quack's chest, something begins to glow, filling his body with the mysterious strength, and his personality changes. He becomes more violent and says after Yangzhou, he'll beat them too, and Godery will be finished. He'll be the only top dog left. Then he charges. He goes straight for the short girl. She slips aside at the last second, but he sticks to her. The tall girl dives in with a kick to his face. The short girl adds an elbow. Both of them feel a jolt of pain like they hit solid metal, straight up steel, and Quack doesn't even flinch. He grabs the tall girl's leg and punches it, which makes her bones crack and she drops screaming. The short girl keeps swinging, but Quack barely moves. He grabs her head. She stares up and asks what he did to his body, and he slams her into the ground, knocking her out. He looks down at them and laughs. "This is your Godery level, so lame I wanna die," then walks off, pleased he finally nailed the line he'd practiced back when he was weaker than them. He reports to his boss and says the pill is insane. At this rate, he doesn't think anyone can beat him. The boss asks Quack if he's going to keep his promise. Quack says yes, bring whoever you want. Then he asks why the boss doesn't just take the pill himself, and the boss goes quiet. Flashback a few days earlier. The CEO uncle explains the pills. The stronger the boost, the worse the side effects. Your personality gets violent, and if you overuse it, sometimes people literally explode. Back to now, the boss gives an excuse about taking herbal medicine. Quack asks what that has to do with anything. The boss insists it matters, and they walk off. Mu shows up at the spot with massive calves, trying to figure out where those two girls' school is. He wants to follow up on their last fight. Next day at their high school, Mu talks with Kim. She says the girls are from Whistle High and sketches him a map. In exchange, she gets to keep Yang Yang for a bit, and she's thrilled. When Mu makes her draw another one, she goes, "What are you, a boomer?" and tells him to use his phone. Mu heads out with Yang Yang. Yang Yang acts as his GPS, calling out where to go, and they get there. Mu looks around, spots the tall girl. She sees him too and notices the hat he brought back. She takes him to the school infirmary to the other girl's room. It's weird seeing them invite him in like this after trying to kill each other. 24 hours ago, anyways, the girl says the little one got wrecked by some psycho who jumped them. She reported him to the cops, and he hasn't been back to school. His name's Kwak Dujyeon. Someone groans behind the curtain. They turn, Mu yanks it aside, and it's Yongjo, battered worse than the last time Mu saw him. He curses out Kwak Dujyeon, then passes out, and a nurse yells that the patient's going into shock. Yongjo wakes up and still doesn't like Mu, but he talks. He says Kwak took some weird drug and turned insanely strong. He was the weakest Godari. Now he's the toughest guy Yongjo's ever fought. Mu listens, excited with his nose puffing, that someone could beat Yongjo that badly, and asks where to find him. The girl says nobody knows, not even the police, so Mu decides he'll track him down himself. Back at school, Mu's carrying boxes while the Hulk teacher tells him to make exercise a daily habit, seriously, not just trying to boss him around. Mu's mind is elsewhere, thinking about Kwak. Meanwhile, Kwak walks past behind him, on the phone with someone telling him to be careful and stop announcing to the world he's on drugs. Kwak says it's already too late, goes upstairs, and heads to a classroom. He's been looking for Heejun, who's just chilling in class. Kwak recognizes him from the picture his boss gave him, pops a pill, storms in, and tells him, "You're dying today," then lifts a desk with the student still in the chair and hurls it at him. Heejun slips aside and the desk flies out the window. Nobody knows who the hell this guy is, and the students start saying they're calling a teacher. Heejun's wondering the same thing when Kwak rushes him and punches his left arm, slamming him into the lockers. The next swing buries Kwak's fist in the metal. If it landed, it would have been ugly. Heejun says this is self-defense and squares up. He drills Kwak in the gut and throws more shots. Kwak freezes and looks like the punches actually do something to him, then he laughs about the punches tickling. So Heejun uppercuts him and calls him a psycho. Kwak tanks it with his chin, says that one stung a bit. He grabs Heejun's hand and then tightens his grip, crushing his hand. Heejun writhes in pain while the class stares. Kang and Daljun are there too. Daljun realizes her brother's the one fighting and actually throws her slippers at Kwak, as if that's going to do anything. Kwak turns and she tells him to let Heejun go. Kwak says he can't, then swings at her. Kang steps in, counters it, and asks what the hell he thinks he's doing, while Heejun tries to elbow Kwak's forearm to break free. Kwak lets go and Heejun snaps, saying he crossed a line by laying hands on his sister, and he and Kang rush Kwak from both sides. The Hulk teacher gets word there's a fight in the third-year classroom and immediately sprints over. That gets Mu's attention. No way he's missing a fight. He tosses the packaging and heads that way. In his bag, Yang Yang suddenly locks in, mentioning that he can feel his magic radar pinging. Back in the classroom, Kang and Heejun tag team Kwak. Kwak turns on Kang first, trying to finish him, but Kang dodges everything. Kwak's just swinging with raw strength, and Kang easily dodges. That annoys Kwak, so he tries to grab Kang instead. Then Heejun clips him from behind, kicking the inside of his leg from behind. Kwak drops to a knee, looks back, and Kang jams two nasty fingers into his eyes, telling him to watch it. No matter how strong you are, there's always a weak spot, Heejun says, and they keep hitting him. Kwak gets fed up. He realizes he's losing and breaks away. He notices someone and sprints for the door. The students think he's coming for them, but he stops at his dealer and demands one more pill. The bald guy asks why he's exposing him in front of everyone. Kwak keeps begging for just one more. He swears he'll catch Heejun like the guy asked. Just give him the pill and he'll finish it, he insists. The bald guy gets mad that Kwak just outed him, with zero chill, and Heejun recognizes him as the same creep who tried to scam his sister. Noticing Heejun's death stare, the bald guy rams a pill into Kwak's mouth and tells him not to mess this up. Kwak goes, "No problem." Heejun steps in and says, "Don't ignore my warning. Keep bothering me and I can't promise what'll happen. I already told you at the pawn shop." Before he can finish mid-sentence, he's blasted backward, shocking Kang. Heejun crashes against the wall and then Kang gets launched too. The mutant powers up into a full purple monster. Daljun worries about her brother. She tries to get to him and Kwak reaches for her, but the buff teacher, Ronnie Coleman, grabs his hand, says working out doesn't mean he can hit his friends, and that it's time to learn a lesson. The teacher tries to enforce his authority physically, but Kwak just squeezes back and snaps the teacher's fingers. The guy runs out yelling for the police, and Mu walks in. Yang Yang tells Mu that it's the mutant guy he can feel mana pouring off him. The bald guy spots Yang Yang, his collateral, lunges to grab him, steps on Daljun's slipper and faceplints, honestly well deserved. Mu grabs his shiny head and drops an elbow on him. That isn't enough though, and the bald guy, swearing, shouts at Quack to take Moo down. Quack says got it and swings. Moo just waits for the first hit to officially start it. Probably not a good idea, but right before it lands, Quack's boost runs out. Yang Yang already drained his mana into a little orb. With the fight started, Moo beats Quack down while Yang Yang watches. Yang Yang says the mana feels familiar. Quack is laid out and Moo complains he was way too weak, not a real fight, then tells Yang Yang to put the mana back. Yang Yang obeys his master's request but warns this isn't normal mana. Moo asks what it is, and Yang Yang says it's extremely pure and powerful, so rare it only exists when a god gives it directly. There's no mana on Earth otherwise. Moo figures it's been ages since his last mana, so some other god must be messing with Earth. Moo asks if it is his, and Yang Yang blushes, it was his. The big purple Hulk gets back up and glares at them, ready to teach them a lesson or two. About 1,000 years ago in the Divine Realm, Moo fought the Cyclops god. The Cyclops, giant-sized, was annoyed at Moo for trying to pick a fight with him. He hurled his weapon and shattered the ground, but suddenly it cracked apart and Moo stood under it fine. With one punch, Moo disintegrated the Cyclops and his weapon at once, acting like One Punch Man. The Cyclops then, back to his original form, told him to stop bothering him. Moo said he would if the Cyclops entertained him, then left, unsatisfied, telling him he'll be back next time. Trying to cheer him up, Yang Yang came up with a brilliant idea. He brought a massive stone from Earth, ground it to powder with his crushing magic, spat a strange liquid on it, mixed and compressed it further, then condensed it with magic to finish it. Lastly, the most important step, he signed it and made a magic dough. He told Moo to feed opponents a tiny dose before fights since it was super concentrated, even showed the single serving. Then Moo took the whole thing, of course he did, and ran back to the Cyclops. Yang Yang watched, worried. Not even a moment later, Moo got knocked back, grinning. Moo loved it. The Cyclops was many times stronger, and they went all out across the god's domain. Moo still won. The Cyclops fell toward the dough, and the magic stone shot toward the mini-Earth but couldn't pass since only its deity can interfere. It bounced off Yang Yang's nose and dropped to Earth. That's how the magic dough ended up here. Back in the classroom, Moo tells Yang Yang, excellent work. He blushes, then the giant throws a punch. Moo slips away and bulks up his left arm and blasts the mutant. He says the guy's tough, his own fist is aching. The mutant keeps swinging, then slams both fists down so hard the whole school shakes, basically an earthquake. Students stumble as the building trembles. Moo can't stay on his feet, so the mutant grabs his shoulder and smashes him into the door, tearing his clothes. Yang Yang shouts for him and asks if he's okay. Moo asks how much time the mutant has left. Yang Yang checks the remaining mana, 5 minutes judging by the remaining mana. Only 5, Moo says. Yang Yang tells him to hold out and he'll weaken, but Moo's worried about something else. That means only 5 minutes left, then no more chance to fight him. Knowing that, Moo says he'll finish it in 5 minutes. Cut to the iced-out uncle in his basement with the magic stone dough Yang Yang made. He cracks off a chunk with a hammer and says this much is enough for now. Moo rips off his shirt and gets ready. He knows trading blows head on his body will be shattered, but if he can match the monster in one spot, he can win. Over the years, his muscles got so big they got in the way, so he found a way to keep strength while keeping his movement, a method that makes the muscles denser and also smaller in volume. In his godly form, he could compress them 150,000 times. Right now he compresses once, letting him power up one spot without slowing down or bulking up in a disadvantageous way. Yang Yang yells that a punch is coming. Moo barely slips it, shrinks one arm to bulk up his right even more. He compresses it twice. Then the monster snatches him and throws him into the wall. Moo crashes right into the wall but doesn't give up. He pushes off and compresses his right arm a third time. The monster rushes in and they trade blows. Their fists crash together and the shock is so big it even blows out the windows. The monster pulls back, hand throbbing, stunned that Moo's on par with him. They go again, hammering each other, and Moo starts to gain the upper hand. Same force on a smaller point hits harder, that's what he's doing. Moo points out the monster, saying they're on par, but Moo disagrees, he's the one winning. With the 5-minute window nearing its end, Moo drives a shot into the monster's core and blasts him through the wall, and the thing smashes into the ground outside. Out front, the police and the bodybuilder teacher who called them watch it land at their feet. The monster shrinks back, and people yell for an ambulance. Inside, Moo looks at the hole he made, then at the bald guy trying again to grab Yang Yang. The bald guy can't believe Moo beat that thing, yanks Yang Yang, and says that was the weakest guy. He'll bring a stronger one to take Moo's head. Yang Yang drops down like he's fine and says if he had mana, that clown would be done. He turns to Moo, who falls to his knees looking tired, but in reality, Moo is hyped now that he's heard there's a stronger one. Mu tells Yang Yang to spit out the healing orb they saved, and he looks forward to the next battle. Meanwhile, the uncle grinds the magic stone into powder and presses more pills. His bald loser nephew bursts in, begging for more. The uncle asks how he burned through them already, and the guy says each monster needs at least 3, the one from earlier only got 2 and still lost. The uncle is stunned, he can't believe what his nephew is saying. Then the room starts to shake. They hear bodies dropping in the hall, then not knowing what to expect, they brace themselves and the door creaks open. Mu is standing there looking for his next opponent. The uncle asks how he got in with troops posted outside. Mu says he took them out and asks where he is, the stronger one.